This is the Patriots Pregame Show, fueled by Duncan.
He's throwing it toward Thornton, left corner of the end zone, caught! Touchdown New England!
The Patriots Pregame Show is your source for all the news and information before every game.
He took it to the house! Again!
Here we
and
go!
The Patriots take the lead!
With Matt Smith, Mike Dussault, Paul Perillo, and Tamara Brown.
And the Patriots have won their 6th Super Bowl title.
Patriots Nation, welcome to the Patriots Pregame Show, fueled by Duncan.
And a good Sunday morning for you, Week 8. Getting ready to kick off here at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts for the Patriots Pregame Show, fueled by Duncan. Matt Smith, PFW Paul, Deuce, Mike Dussault, Tamara Brown, on hand to get you ready and get you up to date before the Patriots kick off against the New York Football Jets. Kind of a defining week, I think, coming up. The game this week, ladies and gentlemen. A lot to discuss. It's been an eventful week, Michael.
Two desperate teams. I think that's what stands out to me. Two teams that are looking to right their season, and certainly the Jets, I think, have a little bit, maybe more pressure. I'd say need the game a little bit more than maybe the Patriots do. In the grand scheme of things, they have bigger hopes. But Patriots, look, it's just a chance to win a game. That's what you heard all week from the team. Focused on the win, not about what's been good with Drake, what's been bad with the offensive line, trying to get the run defense, going, the run offense going. All those things are out of the window. I think they need to win a game today, and they know it.
Tamara, you've had multiple opportunities to talk to players, both in the interview room area and in the TV studio. What's the sense that you get from the players after speaking with them this week?
The common denominator after speaking with the players this week has been focusing on themselves. When you look at that last matchup versus the Jets in Week 3, 14 missed tackles. Jacoby Brissett was sacked 5 times, pressured another 13. So looking within and not beating yourselves, cleaning those things up will be important today for this Patriots team.
Yeah, I just think that they need to, quite frankly, make sure that, the coach's words that started the whole thing last week, you said it's been an eventful week, Matt, with Gerard talking about the team played soft last week in London. They need to make sure there's no question about that. They need to compete, and they need to, you look around the locker room and say, well, I don't know if he's talking about me. I don't know if he's talking about Matt. I don't know if he's talking about Mike, but I'm going to make sure he knows it's not me. And everybody needs to do the same thing. It's the old cliche of looking in the mirror. And I think that's where it all starts. Like, this is not about being 1-6 or whatever. Gerard has said it a million times. They expected to take some lumps. This is about pride, I think, and I think that they need to, put a better effort today, regardless of the outcome of the game. They need to play in a different style.
Mike, one of the things that we talked about during the week, Paul and I used the word bumpy. We knew it was going to be bumpy, this year. Did you think it was going to be this bumpy?
I think that's the funny thing, Matt, because when you talked about what their win record might be at the end of the season, it's probably in the vicinity still of what we all thought it would be. But as much as you prepare yourself for a 1, 2, 3, 4 win season,
jarring.
It's always jarring. There's no way to really prepare for that. And I think some of the injuries, some of the off the field issues, there's been a lot of auxiliary things that have piled onto this team. It's not just the performance on the field. It's been a combination of factors on and off the field. And I think, if anything, that's what's been most jarring to me.
Tamara, they said last week, Coach Mayo said he wanted to come out fast. Against Jacksonville, boy, did they come out fast. That might have been the best quarter of football the Patriots have played all year. And then they followed it up with maybe the 3 worst quarters they've played all year. Strike the balance between, they need to be more of that team in the first quarter and a lot less of the team in the second, third, and fourth.
I asked Kendrick Bourne about this in my one-on-one with him this week, and he said this week we focused on not just starting those practices fast, which they did last week leading up to that Jaguars game, but ending them fast as well. So they did 2-minute drills at the beginning and end of practice to start emulating what they should be doing in this game today against the Jets. So let's see if it shows up in today's game after practicing it all week long.
That's interesting that they would work a little bit extra on the 2-minute stuff with an emphasis on that. I like to hear that. Those kinds of things. It doesn't always work, but I like to hear that there's sort of a recognition of a problem and something, being done to try to remedy it. I like that. That's good stuff.
We have got a beautiful day for football here in Foxborough, Massachusetts, when the 1-6 Patriots take on the 2-5 Jets. An incredibly important game for both teams.
You got to hand it to Matt, though. Like you can make, you're like John Facenda. You make these games like one
With
in
my
the
cold, I
the
might
one
have
in
a
the one in
Facenda-like voice.
the 1 in 6 majors against the 2 and 5. We have a great day for fun. Like you make it sound like this is like a huge match. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It is.
I will
it is.
say-
We got to get it back. We got to get that
getting me
energy
amped
back up.
up.
He's getting me up.
I'll tell you
I
what.
will say rivalry games hit different. There's something about rivalry games, no matter what the two teams' records are, that's always different. So
Yeah.
I like Matt Smith's energy.
Well, I will say this. It might not be a big game nationally, but I'll tell you what, for a lot of people in this building today, this is an enormous game. And with that, Mr. Morrell, let's get to the keys to the game, please.
You've waited all week for it.
The whole team's in the locker room right now just listening to this, waiting to hear what you're going to say.
Here are the Patriots pregame socials, keys to the game.
Okay, I got late to the party on this. I didn't realize that there was some sort of Finland sort of like judging system that Hardy
No, it
imposed
has.
last
We've
week.
been trying to tell you, man. I don't know what
I missed it. I missed that memo. I apologize.
Yeah, the East German judge kills me every week.
Yeah,
I know.
But so
Tough.
I with the one who's talking right now, I'm going to kick it off, and it's really simple for the keys to the game. Compete. Paul, you said it earlier in the show. I'm just looking for the team to compete because I saw a lot of non-competitive football in the last 3 quarters last week in London. That just can't happen. You know, the coaches sort of called them out. Whether we walked it back on Monday from Sunday, let's see how they respond. I think that's critical today. I'm not under any illusions about win versus loss. It'd be great if they could win this game today. I want to see a team that comes out and is ready to compete and competes for 60 minutes. That's imperative to me today when they take on the Jets.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just the baseline, and we do these keys. They come in, try to make them complementary, Matt. But I think that's a great bottom line. I think that's what the coaching staff is looking for this week. Certainly, Paul talked all week about run defense isn't a matter of talent. It's more, like you said, a matter of competing. And can the run defense, who, let's face it, going to maybe be a little bit banged up today, Daniel Aquale popping up, on the injury report this week, not at Friday's practice. He's played a lot for them, and he's played well in spurts. So I think it's a huge challenge. The whole team, they need to compete for sure.
Deuce always does this to me and takes my key.
I just commented on his.
He hasn't given his key yet.
Right.
No, he always takes part of my
maybe
key.
I was
in
teeing
his
it up.
response.
Maybe I was teeing you
Mike,
up.
do you want to tee it up?
I teed her up. Go ahead, Mike.
My key is stop the run, have some fun. What better way to show Gerard Mayo, who said this team is playing soft, that you're tough by winning the battle in the trenches? I think that's where it all starts, especially for this Patriots team that is allowing, over the past 5 games, 167 rushing yards. It has to start with being able to stop the run. Especially with this Jets team. If they can't get anything going with their passing attack, they can lean on Braylon Allen and Breece Hall to get things going. They can wear this team out the same way they did in Week 3, where those two averaged 109 yards.
But, Paul, this is not a Jaguars thing where all of a sudden the Jaguars just came down and ran it down their throat.
Mm-hmm.
This is an ongoing problem in the last 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
The numbers are frightening.
No, since, and I know that everybody looks at it and just says you're making excuses. Since Juwan Bentley left the lineup, they've allowed 165 yards a game on the ground. And that's not a small sample. That was Week 2.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And I like Bentley, Paul, but it can't be just one guy's
it's not.
absence in the lineup, right?
It's not. And they have, listen, it's Barmore, Bentley, Peppers right down the middle, but that's not what this is all about. Mike alluded to it earlier. This is.
And it's fundamentals,
yeah.
Mike.
And I'll just jump in. I think you and I were on the same wavelength this week, Matt. I just show some pride.
Right.
Like, I just think you can't allow a team to line up and run the ball 17 consecutive plays. Like, this isn't high school. Like, you need to be able to just line up and say, I don't care what you do, but you're not going to run Tank Bigsby in between the tackles for 5 yards on this play. That doesn't require talent. That requires effort, commitment, toughness, and all those things that Gerard Mayo was talking about. So show some of that today.
I like Paul's key because every single week after the game, there's a different defensive lineman saying, we didn't play with pride today. We didn't do our job today. Last week it was Daniel Aquale. I think the week before it was Devon Godchaw. So today, let's not have a post-presser where a defensive lineman is talking about we didn't play with pride today.
On Aquale, I just want to bring up one thing about Aquale, and I know he didn't practice on Friday. Again, we're sitting here pining over Daniel Aquale, whether he will or will not play. And that's not an indictment on Daniel Aquale. Daniel Aquale, I think our friend Mike Reese had today from a snaps perspective, is over 70% playing time for the Patriots on the defensive line. Daniel Aquale, I believe in June, they had no idea, that was not going to be his role. He shouldn't be playing over 70% of the snaps on the defensive line.
No.
He's been heroic for the time that he's put in, but he's not a 70% player on this team. He's being put in a tough spot, and he's gutted it out. So kudos to him for doing what he needs to do because they're shorthanded.
Yeah, they are. I mean, I'm still laughing about Paul's key because it sounds like a disappointing parent. Like, show some pride. Like, I feel like it's my dad.
Clean up your room.
Like, that's what.
Show some pride.
Why are you yelling at me, Dad? I guess I'm glad I get to go last because I think I went last on the text chain. But I said any given Sunday because I think everyone thinks the Jets are going to win this game. The Jets are a more talented team. They, have aspirations. They've added Devontae Adams. Many people will tell you that, once those guys get on track, it'll really start to click. I think everybody would agree, though, that, something's been a little bit off with the Jets, and you can't quite put your finger on it. What does this Patriots team have right now? That, among other things, and some injuries, too. But this is a day about the Patriots. Any given Sunday, can you pull together a surprising win that most people, I don't think, are expecting you to have any chance in this game to be able to pull it out? So, for me, go out there, do what you did, compete, show some pride. Stop the run, certainly a huge part of it. I think they all feed into each other. But bottom line is, can this Patriots team get a surprising win that all of a sudden
goes to Matt today?
Okay, great. Yeah, kicked us off strong. He didn't even know he was getting it though.
Wow.
Now you know what you're supposed to do with it, right?
Jingle it.
We're gonna play a song now.
You have to put it on.
And you put it on.
As long as it's
you have
not
to wear that the rest of the week.
As long as it's not my credential, because then Fred will scold me if it's my credential.
Well, someone could see the key and think it goes to something they may try to replicate.
But I just think
what an honor. Thank you so much.
You can't state enough about we could talk about X's and O's. We can say that they need to do a better job, scraping to see and the interior shade, the inside shade.
Line fits.
You could do all of that stuff because there's certainly a lot of that stuff has gone wrong. I'm not dismissing it. They're not in position. Their run fits haven't been good. Like, all of that stuff is valid.
Yeah.
But this is just about lining up and playing with pride, competing. And do you remember, Matt will know this. Mike, maybe you.
Okay,
no way, Tamara. You weren't even born. The 84 Celtics, when they got blown out in Game 3 by the Lakers, and Larry Bird called him a word that probably called his teammates a word that you probably can't say anymore, so I'm not going to repeat it, even though it's benign. And then everybody just said, he didn't just call us soft. Did he call us soft? Well, I'm going to make sure that he wasn't talking about me. Like, they all took it upon themselves to say, well, I don't agree with him, but I'm going to make sure that he can't possibly say that about me. And then, shortly thereafter, Kurt Rambis got, clotheslined by Kevin McHale, and no one was calling the Celtics soft anymore. And I'm not suggesting they go out and rough the passer
Light
today,
a fire, though.
but play with some energy and some pride and some commitment to physicality up front, and do not let Rodgers. This is what happened last week. Trevor Lawrence came out, threw the ball all over the place. They got a lead, and then they just said, we're not going to throw it again because you can't stop us. Do not let Aaron Rodgers do that today. Do not let Aaron Rodgers get up to a good start, and then they just line up Hall and Allen at you the whole game, and it's glorified garbage time in the second half like last week.
By the way, I love the analogy, but I want to ask everyone this. Larry Bird called the team out after Game 3. Larry Bird, who has the utmost respect of everybody in that locker room, called him out. Is it different that it wasn't Kyle Duggar who said it as opposed to their head coach?
Yeah, it's probably different because they have a hard time necessarily, the other players have a hard time looking at Larry Bird and saying he's not tough. He's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. Whereas the coach says that, what does he know about being tough? He's not out there with us, So maybe, to your point, I think that's valid.
I think this is such a young locker room that
Great point.
I'm not surprised that it came from Gerard Mayo, because when you look around this locker room that doesn't have the Devin McCourty and the Matthew Slater, it's like, who is going to say it? Because Kyle Duggar is a pretty quiet guy. John Jones is a pretty quiet guy. So they have quiet leaders. They don't have that loud rah-rah guy.
Yeah.
Shout out to the worldwide leader, who maybe about 45 minutes ago did a nice segment on their pregame show, and it featured former Patriots Randy Moss and Teddy Bruschi. Bruschi, who is as big a Gerard Mayo fan as there's around. They used to live across from each other at one point in time. Mayo probably took the mantle from Teddy Bruschi. And what Bruschi said, which I found interesting, and I'll share with you if you didn't see it, is he said That was Gerard Mayo, the former captain, talking at that point in time with the C on his jersey. I don't know if that was the head coach, Gerard Mayo, that should have been saying that. He didn't knock Mayo necessarily for saying it. I think he wished he would have used better words potentially, but I thought it was interesting that he said, that sounds like Gerard Mayo, the captain. I don't know if that should have been Gerard Mayo, the head coach. Anyway, I found it interesting because Brewski's pretty plugged in to Gerard Mayo.
Yeah, I mean, really, Gerard Mayo, kind of the guy that they brought in right on the heels of Teddy Bruschi's career to take over that spot and be the primary play caller. I mean, I think this is all part of Gerard Mayo learning to be a coach and learning where that line is between being that vocal, captain that we've known him to be, leader of the defense. I think you can say different things as a captain than you can as a head coach, and that's what I think we've seen here over the first 4 or 5 months of his coaching career is, learning how to manage the media a little bit. I thought this week, we got to Friday. I mean, we were so accustomed to Wednesday's press conference. We would come in, previous regime, and you would just get a rundown of the opponent. And this is every player on their roster from A to Z with an in-depth scouting report. You haven't really heard that as much. There's been so much focus internally. And then finally on Friday, and some of the reporters, to their credit, called it out. But Gerard gave us a little rundown of the Jets, and it was part of what I said at the top. We're trying to win a game. We're focused on the Jets. I just hope it, coming Friday, didn't come too late. I'd love to hear that speech on Wednesday where set the tone right out of the gate. This is we're about the Jets. We're going to put all this, talk behind us of what was said last weekend. So we'll see. But I think it's a process for Gerard, for sure.
No question about it. Massachusetts is made for everyone, for leaf peepers, corn-made strollers, regatta lovers, pumpkin pickers, and anyone else you can think of. Come to where there's something for everyone this fall, Massachusetts, where everything is made possible. Plan your trip at visitma.com. The Jets have come to Massachusetts on Sunday here to take on the Patriots. You were talking about the maybe how the Jets are doing as they come into this game. Sort of telling to me that a guy who's been on the team for about 30 seconds is the one holding team meetings and talking about accountability and telling everybody about what the Jets need to do or not need to do. And Devontae Adams, what does that tell you about the team?
I totally agree with you. I thought that was really, really interesting that a guy came in and sort of recognized some of the problems from the outside. Now, it can definitely go one of two ways. It can be bad. But I would look at it if I were a Jets fan and say, that's good because you're getting someone that's not just the same old inside saying, we got to be better, we got to do this. And, and Aaron said, no. Like, this is embarrassing. You gave a game away last week. Like, they were on the verge of blowing the Steelers right out of the building.
I agree.
And Aaron Rodgers completely self-destructed, in my opinion. And that turned the whole game around. And I think Adams looks at it, and he has enough, like, to Tamara's point that she made a little while ago about the age of the Patriots locker room, Adams has been around. And he's been in different locker rooms now, and he's been with Rodgers.
Yeah.
So he has that sway that he can say something. I think it was probably a good sign for the Jets, but probably a bad sign that they didn't have anybody prior to that who could have put a stop to this, because Rodgers is one, in my opinion anyway, from afar, and I'd be interested to listen to Rich Cimini when he joins us in a little while. Rodgers seems like a negative leader to me. Like, what do we have to do? What do you guys have to do to break this losing streak? Stop listening to you guys. You of all people are criticizing the media. The media that shines your shoes every day.
Rich Cimini hasn't thrown any
interceptions. He's on the Pat
interceptions.
McAfee show, weekly, just getting nothing but lobbed softballs in his direction. Like, you're blaming this on the media, Aaron? Like, you're the one who threw the pick that completely derailed your dominant first half last week. I just think that Adams recognizes that, and I think he has the power that he can call Aaron out on that stuff.
He's a great player. I also just think it's funny the guy coming from the Stogie locker room is the one calling out this locker room. So it's
the same guy the same guy said we got to get rid of this guy. He's gonna ruin my career with the quarterback. It's a mess. That's why I'm not convinced of which way it's going to go for the Jets. I'm not convinced.
It was an odd person in an odd time for the Jets, and I think it gives you a little bit of a window into what's going on there, that a guy that's been there for a cup of coffee is the one who's talking.
I agree.
Yeah, and that's why I think the Patriots, as much as it's a long shot probably in a lot of people's eyes, that they have a real chance today to make an impact on the Jets season and to really send them in more of a spiral than they already are. I mean, 2-6, they're going to be right at the same place the Patriots are, but with that roster. So it's an opportunity, and that's what I'm looking to. You set it up, Matt. I'm like, It's not the AFC Championship out there today, but it is two desperate teams that really need to win this game.
Jets.
So for that regard, you get up for it a little bit because these guys are going to leave it all out there. One other thing I just point out, Daniel Aquale, who we were talking about, he's come in wearing a Michael Myers full costume. So I'm not sure how we read into that. Maybe I think he's feeling like he can't be killed because there's about 20 Halloween films, so I guess.
I don't mind that, Mike. I was going to follow up on this.
He's going to be good to go.
This is Paul's going to be sickened by this, but this is as I look at
I'm sickened by.
What a Patriot fan might look at. Are the Jets going to be overconfident in the bus ride in? They walloped this team a few weeks ago. They could sit there and say, what? We don't have to do much today. We completely clobbered these people the last time we played them. You take a little bit of that with a little bit of the dysfunction. If the Patriots were to punch back or punch first,
right,
it's a different Jets team maybe that's going to respond going, whoa, I didn't see that one coming.
They start turning their guns on each other.
Right.
I don't know. I would say if Jacoby Brissett was starting today, then maybe I could see the bus ride over, them having a chip on their shoulder, thinking like, okay, we sacked this man 5 times, pressured him 13. They couldn't do anything in the game, but now they have Drake May, who gives a completely different look for this offense. So I don't know if I was the Jets, if I would come in with that same chip on my shoulder, especially with their defense so banged up coming into this game today.
You mentioned May and the defense being banged up. Is that an area where we can look and see that, the Patriots can maybe make some hay with their starting safeties out of the game?
I mean, it's hard to look past their front seven. I hear, what Tamara's saying, but I would say we're going to go kill this rookie quarterback today. Like, we're going to take Quinnen Williams and we're going to put him on this
whoever
center who started 2 games, and we're going to have him do what he did, let's be fair, to David Andrews in week 3 and push him right back into the pocket. On paper, safeties being out, you'd think Drake, chance to push it down the field a little bit, of course. But he's going to have to get the time to do that, and he's going to have to be able to get comfortable. So I would attack him with Hassan Reddick coming back today. You got him, Will McDonald, 2 guys off the edge. Not sure what the Patriots' tackle situation is, so that's how I would look at it. You got to block these guys up front, and then maybe you can take advantage of some of the injuries in the second.
Yeah, and it is, they are banged up a little bit, but I think it's better than it was for the Jets than it was in Pittsburgh. I think DJ Reed will be back, so they get the 2 corners back in there. I agree with Mike. I worry a lot about that defensive line. Someone asked me what area you thought was the biggest mismatch, and that would be it to me. Quinnen Williams and that crew really, really dominated the game on that Thursday night.
City So, right up the middle. I mean, he's had his struggles since getting back in there for Robinson. I'd target him too.
Okay, so with their pass rush scaring you as we close in on Halloween, I think Alex Van Pelt has been pretty self-aware in saying I think he'd like some of the calls back maybe from that Thursday night game against the Jets where they didn't really run the ball.
Yep.
So do you think that there's going to be more of an emphasis on trying to get Stevenson in the running game going and maybe be less quick to throw it and stick with it if there's a sniff that it's working a little bit?
I don't need to run Ramondre Stevenson into a brick wall on first and second down just to try to prove something. I like what they did last week. I like that they came out throw, but I think they have to be more cognizant of not getting too far away from it. Sometimes it's hard the way the game unfolds. You don't really have a choice. That's what I'm waiting to see though, Matt, is seeing this Patriots offense with Drake May, but with some semblance of a running game to complement him a little bit and just to see what it looks like. We haven't seen it. He's had 2 games. He's had no real support from the running game.
Yeah, right. And I think that they will do that, Matt. I think Van Pelt has made, I want to say, like at least 3 separate references to being regretful of not running the ball more in that Jets game.
Isn't that
and the Jets don't have a great run defense. So, I mean, I know it's tough because they've had so many different combinations on the offensive line, and there is a chance that you get an end to that streak today, depending on who's active. But if you go, if it sounds like Vidarian Lowe is tracking to play according to Mike Reese.
Yeah.
We'll get to some other interesting items that Mike had in his notes this week. One in particular, but if you have Vidarian Lowe, Michael Jordan, Ben Brown, Mike Owenu, and Trey Jacobs, that would be a repeat of the line that they started the Houston game with in Week 6. So maybe Van Pelt would feel a little bit better. There's some continuity that I know, it's all relative because they've had no continuity.
Yep.
This would be one that just 2 games ago started together. Maybe they would run the ball a little bit more and try to try to back that pass rush up. I mean, the first play of the game is like a play action, all-out blitz, like just a decimation on that first play. And, Van Pelt talked about that play in particular where he felt like he put Jacoby Brissett in a bad spot.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that we're in a place right now where we're thinking that we're crossing our fingers, and I mean this with no disrespect, that Vidarian Lowe is going to play and is going to be active today. Another guy who I think is maybe miscast, but because of the state of the roster, they need him at left tackle to just sort of hold the fort a little bit.
To me, it's less about Vidarian Lowe as it is, can they just have the same guys?
Right. Yeah.
Like, you tell me whatever you think is the best, and I'll take your word for it. Like, I just think there's some value in having the same two guys next to each other for 2 or 3 weeks in a row. And they haven't, in fairness to them, they haven't had that opportunity.
No, and I think, I mean, he's a little bit of a punchline unfairly. I mean, I think they have a lot of, I don't want to say confidence yet, but they really seem to believe in him. And every time they talk about him, they are very complimentary. I mean, every time Vidarian Lowe's talked, he's very self-critical. It's
he's
just
a
hard.
Pro, Mike.
He's a pro for sure. And I think he's, fairly athletic. I think we saw a little bit of strides, but I think to Paul's point, like, get him. I know he's not, the next coming of Joe Thomas on the left tackle side, but he's the best you have, I think, there. And if the rest of the season, if you could get him in there, I don't know what it's going to look like, but the continuity would be huge. The communication on that side of the line, those are things that just can make the offense go. I'd love to get Lowe back in there today.
Maybe at the other end of the spectrum, as we're talking about the professionalism of Vidarian Lowe, is the wide receiver room, which has come under some scrutiny this week, where you're looking to see where are the pros in that room. And that's been a challenge this week with people who really haven't accomplished much in the National Football League, feeling comfortable enough to say whatever they want to say.
Yeah. I mean,
that was my big takeaway from Mike's notes that I made. He kind of alludes to Javon Baker had, how do you put it?
Hiccup.
A hiccup with the team's itinerary.
I didn't mean to steal your thunder there, sir.
Yeah, no, but that's kind of what I was, and I figured we get to that when we moved on, but that tells me he probably was, he missed a meeting or he was late for something, or a hiccup with the itinerary means he was late for something.
Yeah.
And that. Like we keep hearing Alex Van Pelt and some of the other coaches talk about, he needs to tighten up the details. He needs to, button things up. These are the things they're talking about. It's learning how to be a pro. And I think Baker's still trying to figure that out. Based on some of the comments that he's had about it, I don't know why I'm not playing. Well, yeah, you do.
Better.
You do. And if you don't know, then it's probably not going to change.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know you need to show up on time or not have a hiccup, I just want to use the words, not have a hiccup with the team's itinerary. If you don't know that's why you didn't play last week, then how's that going to change?
But it's more than that, Paul, in that Baker gets drafted where he gets drafted because there's a maturity issue, I would assume, that dropped him to where he dropped because the evaluators think he's got a world of talent. It's the other wide receivers in there, that the gyrations that you talk about on the sideline. It's, well, yeah, they threw in the deep ball, because I had to ask them to throw me the deep ball. There's an entitlement amongst this group that I think is really confounding for people who've watched the Patriots for so many years to go, where is this coming from? Because their comments don't match the production.
Yeah, I think Kendrick Bourne's a key guy today.
I agree with you 100%.
Demario Douglas should be better, so I think I'd get him back in the mix. He's definitely a good receiver, but they need that additional complementary piece, and you've had issues with KJ Osborne. Are they going to bring him back into the fold today? Is he suddenly, with Polk out, is he going to become more involved? I have a hard time seeing that. I feel like.
But there's some numbers problems, Mike, that, maybe they wouldn't play KJ Osborne if they were in a better situation. Again, let's speak to Tyquan Thornton, a guy who's been a healthy scratch. He'll likely be up today, and he hasn't demonstrated necessarily the confidence that you should have to be him up today because of the numbers problems with Polk being hurt.
That's why I look to Bourne. I mean, and Bourne spoke this week. He spoke last week. He's maybe the oldest guy in the room. I don't know if he's older than Osborne. It's about the same, but they need him to be a leader. And if he's able to go out and have some production, and then he gets a little bit credit to his leadership, and it gives him a little bit more juice in the locker room as complimentary person. We'll see. But I think Kendrick Bourne today, big day for him if he's able to get some stats.
Here's a question for the crowd. If your team runs on their fans, what do the fans run on? When you kick off your day with Dunkin', we're with you all the way to the end zone. Make a run to Dunkin', the official coffee run of the Patriots. This is the Patriots pregame social presented by or fueled by Dunkin'. And it's time now for Behind Enemy Lines.
You know the view from New England, but what about the view from the other side?
And that's why you're our favorite pregame show guest every year.
You guys know you tell everybody that.
Oh, yeah!
I was on with you guys in 2018, Thursday Night Football.
Yep.
And I was told I was the favorite guest of the show.
Nope. No.
Time now to go behind enemy lines.
My God, it's coming right for us!
Behind enemy lines, and we are pleased to be joined by one of the greats from ESPN.com. Rich Cimini joins us on the hotline right now. Rich, good morning, and thank you for joining us. I'll hit you right out of the chute with this. Will this be a more competitive game than the Thursday night affair from a few weeks ago?
Well, first of all, good morning. Thanks for having me, guys. I do think it'll be more competitive. That was a short week, obviously, and I think that played heavily into the Jets' favor in that particular game. It's always difficult for road teams on that short week, especially with a new coach and that early in the season. So I do think it'll be more competitive today. I mean, you want the view from behind enemy lines. It's grim right now with the Jets. I mean, a 4-game losing streak, and they are just going through all sorts of stuff behind the scenes. But, you know, I think they'll prevail in this game, but I do think it'll be competitive.
Rich, what do you see Hassan Reddick bringing to the defense here as he ends his holdout?
Yeah, I think he'll be used situationally today as a third down rusher. He'll bring speed off the edge. It's not necessarily a glaring need for the Jets. You know, their pass rush has been pretty decent so far this year, at least statistically, but he's going to bring an extra guy in the rotation. I don't think they'll overly use him. I mean, he's had basically 2 practices. He hasn't played a football game in 9 months. And they got another one on Thursday night. So I think they'll be judicious with the way they use him. I could see him playing 20 snaps, something along those lines. But he'll give them another speed rusher to pair opposite Will McDonald. So that, you know, ideally, you know, they have 2 good edge rushers now.
Rich, I wanted to just ask you about Aaron Rodgers. And, you know, I know he's been up and down on the field, obviously, but I'm more concerned with your thoughts of Rodgers' impact off the field. Has he been sort of the right guy to lead this team?
You know, that's a great question. I don't think we have enough time to get into all the different angles of that. But the first thing, I mean, he's the polarizing player even among ardent Jet fans. Even the Jets fan base is split on him. You know, is he a great leader? I mean, if you talk to players in the locker room, I haven't had one player tell me anything negative about Aaron. You know, he has a way of connecting with teammates from the top guy on the roster to the bottom guy. The other day I saw him, you know, talking to a couple of practice squad guys, and honestly, I didn't even know who they were, you know, because they were just like hanging around. It's like, who are these guys? But he was hanging around with a couple of them for a while. And so he has a way of connecting with different players on the team. He is a hard worker. I think he brings an aura to the team that they desperately needed when they traded for him. On the flip side, you know, you got to perform in this league. You just can't be about reputation and talk and that sort of stuff. And he hasn't performed. I mean, since beating the Patriots in Week 3, his numbers have been awful. I mean, to be quite honest, in the last 4 weeks, he ranks 26th in QBR, and his numbers are just alarming. He's been throwing some interceptions that are head scratchers. And so there comes a point where, you know, you can't be just all about the talk. You got to back it up on the field, even if your name is Aaron Rodgers.
He was masterful in that Thursday night game, Rich, and we were in awe. That was the Aaron Rodgers that I think Jets fans and everybody in the organization were hoping to see when he played that game. As you mentioned, you know, he's got some knee issues, some hamstring issues, and his running mate's now in town. And I found it interesting that his running mate is taking to, you know, being the voice of reason or the voice to talk in the Jets locker room after being there. I don't even think he had a number yet, and he's already speaking about the state of the team. How do you think that went over in Jets country?
I don't think he'd even unpacked his bags yet, and, you know, he was given pep talks after the game. Yeah, very unusual to see something like that. I mean, you would expect a guy like a Rodgers to do that, but, you know, we talked to Devontae Adams about that on Wednesday, and he was more than happy to share, you know, that whole situation. And he said when he first started talking to the team after the Pittsburgh game, he prefaced it by saying, look, I know I've only been here a few days and it's a little weird for me to be talking, but, and then he went on to say the theme of it was how they had no energy on the field against Pittsburgh. didn't see guys celebrating each other's accomplishments during the game. Not that there was a lot to celebrate, but even in the first half when they were ahead, he didn't see any enthusiasm or juice. And so that was the theme of his speech. And he's like, "Come on, guys, we're in the NFL. We got to raise the intensity level a little bit." And so I get the perception that who's this guy to show up? And he comes from the Raiders of all places. Maybe the most dysfunctional team in the league, but he did make the playoffs 6 times with Green Bay. So he does have some pelt on the wall. And so I talked to a bunch of players. They said they didn't mind that at all, that it came from a new guy. Of course, me being a cynical New Yorker, I have to think there are some guys in the locker room who were just kind of rolling their eyes, thinking, like, who the heck is this guy to come in and tell us what we should be? But I did not get any players on the record to say that. So it's very interesting. The coach thought it was great. In fact, he even mentioned it again to the team on Wednesday in their team meeting, referencing Devontae's speech. And that became the theme of the week out at the Jets facility.
Rich, we asked you a lot of stuff sort of off the field of what's going on there, and I know that's often the story with the Jets. But on the field, that secondary was pretty banged up in the Sunday night game against Pittsburgh. What's it look like for today?
It's a good and bad situation. So the good for them is they're getting 2 of their corners back. DJ Reed will be playing today, and their nickel back, Michael Carter, will be back. So their top 3 corners are intact, which hasn't been the case in a few weeks. So that's the positive news for the Jets. The downside is both of their safeties are out. Tony Adams is out today. Chuck Clark's been on IR for a little over a week. So I think they're going to end up starting Jalen Mills, and the other safety will probably be Isaiah Oliver. So they were thin at safety to begin with. It was a suspect position, and now they're even more suspect with these injuries.
Can a makeshift Patriots offensive line with a dominant Jets front seven, can Drake May, in his first start against the Jets, not his first action against the Jets, but his first start, take advantage of that safety depth? We shall see. Rich will put you on a spot. Give me a pick. I know you said you think it'll be competitive.
Yeah, first of all, I think you were a little too kind to the Jets by saying they're a dominant front seven.
Okay.
I mean, they are vulnerable against the run. if the Patriots want to win this game, they should just run the ball between the tackles against the Jets, because the Jets will eventually wear down. So they are not a dominant front seven. They've put up some decent sack numbers. Will McDonald has 8, but it doesn't feel like 8, if you know what I mean. It's just they're not the front seven they were in years past. That said, I am picking the Jets today. I just think, look, they are superior on paper. They have a distinct advantage in personnel in this game. I think both teams are going through some off the field. Obviously the Patriots are reeling 6 in a row. The coach calling out the team saying they were soft. I'm sure that has had loud reverberations in the locker room. So you never know how that's going to play. That could go either way. The Jets coming off the Devontae speech, you never know how that's going to go. It could go either way. So I'm going to say the Jets probably win something of an ugly game today, just to keep their season alive.
Rich Cimini, ESPN.com. Thank you very much. Enjoy the game today, Rich. Thanks for your time.
You got it, guys.
Thanks, Rich.
Good correction by Rich when I used the dominant as far as their front seven. I guess I'm saying it in context with who the Patriots have on the offensive line. Maybe the Jets aren't what Rich has said in previous years. That's a pretty good front seven that they have, especially when you factor in the Patriots line.
But you can run on them, and that's been a common theme for them. Now we'll see. We'll see if the Patriots can run on them as much with the makeshift offensive line as some of the other teams have. But Steelers haven't been able to run the ball all year, and I think Najee Harris had like 102 yards last week. Yeah. So I think that's the formula. I think Mike said it with Alex Van Pelt, and I keep getting back to it. How many times he kept saying, I think we maybe got away from the run in that game. I'd be surprised if they didn't try to run, which will cause all the maniacs. There's a lot of I got a lot of terms now. A lot of the maniacs to lose their minds because you don't just let the guy throw the ball 58 times. You're not putting him in a position to succeed. But I do think Mike's point about he's had no support from the run game in the 2 starts that he's had. That needs to change today.
Yeah, can it? That's going to be the real question. Can it, Mike?
I can it. That's what they play the games. I wish I could tell you. And I mean, it's it's interesting when I guess we all view our own team with such a microscope, and so it's great to talk to Rich and get that perspective because I just see Quinnen Williams, and to me that's all you need to stop the run game.
And two good linebackers in C.J. Mosley and Quincy Williams. I agree with you, Mike. They shouldn't be as bad, but I wonder if it's one of those teams that they're really good on defense, and they know you can run between the tackles if you want. We'll let you do that.
Yeah.
We'll just make sure you can't do anything else.
Yeah.
Rich Cimini used the word which startled me a little bit. Did you hear the word grim when he mentioned the New York Jets?
Well, they've lost 4 in a row.
No, I know. It just, their situation just seems so much better than it is here.
Well, it's because they have talent, but to me, that makes the mental situation so much worse. Robert Saleh didn't go into the season thinking, well, we're going to take we know we're going to take some bumps and bruises. We're going to have some bumps along the way. They didn't think that. They thought they'd win 10 or 11 games. Now, listen, they still could. Because when you have the baseline of talent that the Jets have, winning 8 out of 10 isn't out of the realm of possibility. Do I think that will happen? No, because I don't think this particular organization has that kind of pedigree. But they have the kind of talent that can win that amount of games. This one, the Patriots, to me, they're going to continue to play because they kind of knew they were in this situation.
Yeah, that's what sets up just such an interesting matchup to me of today, of these two desperate teams. And as Rich said, I mean, the Jets lose this one, they look out below.
Oh, it's over.
They're in trouble, So
it's over.
They're going to play desperate,
game
but are they going to play tight?
Right. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the New England Patriots. Here's a guy who had quite a bit of success against the New York football Jets in his career, both in New England and in Indianapolis. We had a chance early in the day to have a great little conversation with former Patriots kicker Adam Vinatieri. Well, we're pleased to be joined by one of the great Patriot players of all time. Adam Vinatieri is here with us. Adam, pleasure to see you. What brings you to Foxborough today?
Well, I just wanted to come out and watch a great game, and it's always a pleasure to be out here. I don't make it out often enough, and so being in the area is fantastic. The weather's changed, and you can feel fall in the air, and it's football weather, and I'm just happy to be out here. I'm gonna do a little keeper of the light today, and hopefully say hi to a bunch of the fans, and I'll be one of the ones cheering the loudest today, I'm sure.
Good kicking weather?
Actually, it is. Yeah, when you're out here, you never know if we're going to have a snowstorm or crazy weather. So anytime that you get decent weather like this is a good day.
Now, do you go down and check it out? Because it's a little different than the stadium that you kicked in. It's all closed in on the side. So do you go and check that out and say, I wish I got to deal with this? Or
Well, I played here in Gillette Stadium for a few years.
I know, but it's all closed in now. The huge video board has changed. According to Bill, it's changed it all.
Probably better now. You don't have that wind tunnel that whips through there. So, whatever you can do to keep the wind out of the stadium makes it a little easier to kick for sure. So, and the fact that, we don't have the old Foxborough Stadium when we had grass, which turned to dirt about this time of year. You got a good kicking service, so it makes a big difference that way too.
Have you ever made a trip up into a Patriot Place? They've got a little plaque up there for you in the middle of a store now of where you made the greatest kick in NFL history.
No, the Patriot Hall of Fame stuff, we've gone through there a couple of different times, and I get chills and some goosebumps, walking down memory lane, the video and stuff with all of the, some of them trophies and stuff were post me, but the first couple of them, it was fun just reminiscing and thinking about all my old teammates and what we accomplished back in the day. It was pretty awesome.
We're a little bit under the gun here, and I know you've got a lot of commitments today. I do not back off by saying one of the greatest Patriot players of all time. I wonder if you're going to realize the reception that you're going to get from the fans today. I think you're going to be blown away by it. And I say that all as a lead-in, Adam. This past week, the Pro Football Hall of Fame announced the candidates, and you're on the ballot for the first time this year. One person speaking, I think I can speak for my teammates here, it would be a travesty if you don't get in. What are your thoughts about being nominated for the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
It's a huge honor just being nominated. It's not just about everybody thinks your accolades and what you've done. It's obviously you have to put the kicks through the uprights, but for me, if I make it, it's really a mark on my teammates and all the guys that helped me, because I can't get on the field without them, right? So to be honored, to be even nominated is a huge honor. I'd love to be able to wear a gold jacket at some point, hopefully. Got my fingers crossed. I won't lie about that. I mean, everybody says, well, I'll worry about that later. I think about it all the time now. It's exciting. It's a really exciting thing. But, I look at it, and it just brings me back, not to the Kicks, but to all my teammates and what we accomplished as a team. And I think that's kind of what the Patriot way was when Bill and Tom were here and all that. It was never about one guy. It was always about what can we do to win championships, and we did a lot of that.
Lonnie Paxton to snap, Ken Walter to hold. Those are magical words. Adam, thank you for joining us. Have a great time today.
Thank you so much.
It's
going to be great.
Thanks, Adam.
Without good blocking, your team's not going anywhere. Cisco blocks cyber attacks for customers around the world, including the entire Fortune 100 and the NFL. Because when the game is on the line, and it's always on the line, the NFL relies on Cisco.
It ain't my dad's razor, Dad.
Hey, watch it.
It's from Gillette Labs. This green bar releases trapped hairs from my face.
Game changer.
While the Flex Disc contours to it, so the 5 blades can get virtually every hair in one stroke. For the ultimate Gillette shaving experience,
The best a man can get
is Gillette Labs.
By the time this Patriots fan is finished drinking his Pepsi, you'll be 15 seconds closer to game time. Patriots watching. Better with Pepsi.
Well, we're pleased to be joined by
NFL team every Sunday, and Verizon's got you covered for all your team's out-of-market games every Sunday afternoon. Come on! From kickoff to sign-off, from first downs and touchdowns to turnovers, and overturned plays.
After review, the pass was incomplete.
Nice! Let's go! This season, win every Sunday with Verizon. Get a great deal on NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV, and a new phone. Excludes digital-only games. Terms and embargoes apply.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes.
Oh no.
Replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
Join the conversation by calling into the TPX hotline at 855-PATS-500 or email the show at podcast@patriots.com. Now, live from our studios, here is Matt Smith.
And we welcome you back to the Patriots Pregame Social, fueled by Dunkin'. It is 1:30 on the East Coast before the Patriots take on the Jets here at Gillette Stadium. That means it's inactive time, and that means it's time to go to the field and check in with Tamara Brown, who has today's inactives. Hello from out in the field, Tamara. Oh, no problem. Let me get my tap shoes on, Matt Morrell. I was a tap dancer.
Really?
No.
With no socks?
No.
You can't tap without socks, man.
All right, before we get to Tamara, Mike, we can talk about, there's a couple guys who showed up on the injury report late in the week. Those are usually not good things.
No.
Daniel Aquale, Kyle Duggar, Brendan Schooler all showed up late. I hope that doesn't mean that they're trending in the wrong direction when they show up on the injury report late in the week.
No, some key players, no question. Certainly, Duggar without Peppers having back end. Curious if he's going to be able to go. That's a big one. Brendan Schooler, big special teams player as well. Popped up with an illness, so we'll see. I know this is the time of year those things tend to pop up. So just always tough. Patriots don't have a lot of depth. So I think every time these injury reports come out, even on Sunday, they raised O'Shawn Mathis from the practice squad. A little bit of maybe of a signal of which way things are going to go with some of the position groups. But just the lack of depth, it's every time these injury reports come out, it's tough. It taps their depth, especially in the secondary where they don't have a lot of those guys. They've been hit hard this year. We'll see. Jonathan Jones was another guy who was managed this week a little bit. So I guess you get to this point in the season, Matt. It's like everybody's got an injury. That's what they tell you, right?
No question about it.
So just about November. And,
let's do without the suspense. I believe we have Tamara now on the field. Tamara, hello, and why don't you fill us in on who is on that inactive list today, please?
Matt Smith, the suspense is over, and I'm very sad to report that the defense will be without Josh Uche, as well as Kyle Duggar and Daniel Aquale. It's a triple whammy for this defense, who we talked about at the top of the show. Daniel Aquale already playing 70% of the snaps. He is going to be out today. So what does that mean for the run defense? I talked about it in my key to the game. Stop the run and have some fun. Are they going to be able to do that without him? It's going to be guys like Jeremiah Farms and Jacqueline Roy that I think they're going to have to fill his void. And can they do that is the question. And then with Kyle Duggar, not having your starting safety out there when you're playing against Alan Lazard, Garrett Wilson, and Devontae Adams, it's going to be a tough day for this Patriots defense without those three guys out there.
Call me crazy, Tamara and Mike, and please you can. On the Aquale not being on the list, that one to me seems like a bigger hit, believe it or not, than Duggar, who's your captain. You extended him this year. I thought Mapu actually came in and did a nice job, and he and Hawkins played well in the game that Duggar missed earlier in the year. The Aquale thing, again, it's attrition. They just don't have any bodies. That's a real tough one, I think, Tamara, as you talk about. How do you stop the run when you're just down too many guys?
I agree. And when you have to rely on I think when you have to rely on Jeremiah Farms and Jacqueline Roy, guys who haven't played a lot, and you're expecting to lean on them today and give the majority of the snaps, I think that's going to be a tough day for this defensive line who is already playing without Jawan Bentley, Christian Barmore. It's not what you want to see when you're going against this Jets team who has an explosive offense.
Tamara, no Jalen Polk out today. It does look like Javon Baker and Tyquan Thornton, a couple guys who have been out, are going to get their chance today. You see those guys out there yet? And just what are your thoughts on opportunity for those two receivers?
Just as expected, Tyquan Thornton is out here today. Gerard Mayo hinted at that this week, saying he had a great week of practice, as well as wide receivers coach Tyler Hughes. He said that it was his birthday this week, and the guys gave him the best present in the world, and that's a great week of practice. And now we need to see that translate on the field. Can Drake May and Tyquan Thornton, between his arm and Tyquan's speed, pair together to create a dynamic duo out there? This will be Tyquan Thornton's first start with Drake May as well, so I'm interested to see, can he translate that production from practice onto the field. In his first 5 games this year, he's only had 2 catches in the 5 games that he's played, and he's been a healthy scratch the last 2 weeks. So what can he do today with this opportunity?
So Duggar and Aquale, to me, are the headliners, but right below that is healthy scratch Uche. Yeah. So the cynic in me has to wonder, do they have a deal in line for Uche, and they just don't want to see him get hurt against the Jets today? Is that a possibility?
I think that's definitely a possibility, especially with the trade deadline approaching. Josh Uche is healthy. Let's see what you can get from him, especially with this team that's going to want to get as much capital as they can going into 2025.
Yeah, I said O'Shawn Mathis was raised from the practice squad, so he'll maybe fill some of those snaps on third down, being able to rush the passer a little bit. But it's a huge key for Aaron Rodgers. We saw him getting out of the pocket last time, but really puts a focus, I think, Tamara, on Anthony Jennings, Keon White. He's been a little bit quiet in the production department since those first 2 games. How do you see the team offsetting that loss of Uche today?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to see a big game from Raekwon McMillan and Jelani Tavai. I know we've seen a lot of Christian Ellis more because Raekwon McMillan has been struggling as he's been trying to fill the void of Jawan Bentley. So I think with those 3, I don't know how they're going to split it between each other, but they're going to have to come out and play their best game. 14 missed tackles cannot happen again today against this Jets offense.
All right, Tamara, great job in the inactives. Before we let you go, why don't you give us a sense of the feel inside the stadium as the T-shirt warm-ups are going on behind you?
Well, I have a great story. I just caught up with Lisa Reed. She is a cancer survivor. She traveled here all the way from Omaha, Nebraska for her first Patriots game. She's super excited about the Patriots having the potential to get a win today. She is really excited no matter what the record is right now. She is just excited to be at her first game. She traveled all the way here from Nebraska. She wants to see a Patriots win.
All right, Tamara, thank you very much. That's your report from the field.
Wait.
Oh.
She's got
one more second, Matt.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have another thing to say. Great news for the Patriots offensive line. You didn't even ask me about it, Matt.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I think there was so much attention on the on who's not playing defensively. My apologize.
Yeah, I know you want to point to obviously the bad news first, but I have good news before we go. The Patriots offensive line is going to have the same combination, or hopeful to have the same combination, from week 6 against the Texans. All season long, this offensive line has been a problem. They've had a different combination every single week. But this week, Darian Lowe is active after being on the injury report all week long, so I'm expecting them to have the same line from week 6.
That is good news.
Yeah.
That is good news.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Tamara. Good job in bringing that up. So, for the first time all year, they actually have the same combination playing in a game that's played once before.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to try to establish a running game, at least you get maybe a little continuity here.
Yeah, a lot going on. Love having Trey Jacobs continues to stack starts at right tackle. So I just think we've had some consistency at the right tackle position. It's not a lot. Love to get Lowe back. We talked about it earlier in the show. I think he's made some progress, and it's not what everybody wants to hear. And like I said before, he's kind of become like he's our left tackle. But I think that there is some belief in him that he can get the job done. We'll see today. See if they can pick up where they left off. For me, though, the bigger concern is just inside and dealing with Quinnen Williams and the big pieces that they have. You've still got Ben Brown as your center getting, his 3rd start ever. Michael Onwenu kicking, maybe he can slide back inside to right guard, which would be great. I love that. That would be a bonus. Sidiso back to the left side. How's that going to look? So, it'll be a little bit of juggling for sure, but I think the inside of the line is where my biggest concerns are right now. They do have some good edge rushers that'll challenge the tackles, though.
That's a fair point, and I think, your point about Big Mike maybe kicking inside helps. I think this kid Brown is a really interesting story, I mean, we're not talking a household name, and I think, again, it's just yet another example of the disrepair of the roster and how far the personnel people have had to go to just try to find somebody that they can plug and play. Well, this kid has come in and plugged and played, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, he's got good size too. That's, he's got some thickness to him, which I like with some of these bigger defensive tackles that you have to deal with. Credit to him. I mean, we saw camp all summer. We saw a lot of different centers work behind David Andrews, and we saw a lot of screwed up snaps. We saw a lot of laps, rehuddles, those kind of things. We haven't had those mistakes in these first couple games as far as the snaps go. So I think that's a baseline for centers. It's hard to really get into the nuance of, what the center's job is. They do a lot of helping out along the offensive line. But if you can just get that basic part down of having the snap correct, it's huge not having those killer mistakes when, you have botched snaps and fumbles and all those kind of things. So try to keep that going today. And I like his size. I think David Andrews, when we saw him in week 3, had some struggles. And I think it was more a sign of short week, a veteran who's really been banged up and was about to end up on IR. But Quinnen Williams was really tough for him. Curious how Ben Brown's going to hold up inside today.
You can email the show, podcast@patriots.com, or call us on the TPX hotline at 855. What do I want to fill that in with?
855-PATS-500.
PATS-500. And so let's go to the phone lines now and check in with Pat from Agawam. You're first this morning on the Patriots Pregame Social. Good morning, Pat. How are you?
Morning, gents.
Patty?
So, Matt, you're 100% right. Adam is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. It's an absolute friggin' travesty. The guy belongs in there on the first ballot. No questions. No questions asked, no questions answered. So I kind of want to – I think you all made very good points on your keys to the game. But I want to kind of point out what Tamara said specifically. Like, these division matchups are wacky. And as crazy as it seems, I can see a path to a victory today. But it is going to involve the guys on both ends of the line of scrimmage to kind of, pull up their pants and kind of punch above their weight. And, I mean, I think they do it. And we've seen, like, the Jets, they're talented, but they're still kind of doing Jets things. And all I'm going to say is I like us to win today, 24-21. I'm getting off the line so you can get the other callers. Let's friggin' go, baby.
All right, Pat, I was actually going to follow him up with, like, if he sees a path to victory, I want to know what that path is. Because there's some optimism there, because there's not a lot to hang your hat on. And I think that's one of the things that maybe frustrates me is, you'd love to see him in these games. Yeah, I think, when they were, hate to be like the broken record, but the fact that how uncompetitive they were in the last 3 quarters against the Jaguars concerns me. I'm looking for them just to get back to a competitive state, much less try to win the game against a better roster. That's my concern.
Yeah, it's hard for me, a defense guy, to look at the defense and see the game that they're going to be able to produce today that would be necessary to win. And even if they're able to keep Rodgers in the pocket, I just don't think they have the horses to get to him to really. it sounds great in theory. Keep him in the pocket. Well, nobody can cover forever. And if you can't eventually get there, he's still going to pick you apart. So even if they keep him and don't let him squirt out and make plays on the run like he likes to do, the Patriots defense has to show me something new today for them to really have a chance to win this game.
Silver-haired, silver lining Matt would like to say that, it's not easy playing quarterback at age 40 and above. We saw one person do it quite well. They don't usually do it very well. Rodgers is banged up with a little bit of a knee, a little bit of an ankle injury, a hamstring injury, and stuff like that. Maybe there's a little silver lining there, Paul. He's not right, or 100% at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the path to victory is the other team doesn't play well. I hate to be that blunt about it,
Co-conspirators.
but I mean, I don't see how the Jets play at any reasonable level and the Patriots win. If they have any intensity at all, like what Rich Cimini said is entirely true. Like the difference in talent is significant. It's much bigger than it was last week. Just if you this is another one of those games. If you go down man for man, you're going to have a hard time putting the check mark on the Patriots side. But it hasn't mattered for the Jets. I think the Jets were significantly more talented than Pittsburgh last week, and they ended up getting blown out in the second half because I don't think the Jets came to play. And as soon as they had some adversity, they folded up their tent and they went home. And I think that one of you two, I forget which one, you said something about having some success early. And, if you could somehow repeat that start that you got last week, I thought Jacksonville was going to go home, and they didn't. But maybe the Jets will, because the Jets are just waiting for something bad to happen. It seems like that's the way they're playing.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to have confidence, too, that the Patriots can get the takeaways with Rodgers. I mean, that's been a big part of their downfall and their struggles, and Patriots just haven't been able to produce those turnovers. It just would have to be a totally unexpected game, and I think Paul lays it out really well. You got to start well. I mean, we know the Patriots have to walk the path. We know exactly what that is, but it's got to be more than that. It's got to be interceptions. It's got to be takeaways. It can't just be good start, don't turn the ball over, maybe don't allow them to score in the end. Like, they're going to have to do more today.
Time of possession battle's got to be a lot closer. That's a big one.
Yeah, run the ball, make them limit their plays, because if you can't get off the field again on these guys, it's just a matter of time, I would think.
One guy who didn't play in the Thursday night game, I think I'm pretty sure on this, and is playing today, is Mosley. He's a good player.
Yep.
In that front seven. That I think that's a factor. He's
a great player. I mean, I think if Bill was here this week, we would have heard a dissertation about him for about 10 minutes for sure. But he's a big problem in the run game, and I wonder, that's what just. I got to see it. I got to see it out there today. I got to see the Patriots run right up the middle and C.J. Mosley and Quinn Williams.
Well, and I think that they could run the ball, but I'd have to say, I'm just talking about in general. I think you make a great point, Mike. I don't know how you can lose 6 games in a row, and then sit there and say, I have confidence. I see a path to victory. I need to see it before I start changing some of the things I've seen. Matt has said a couple of times they weren't competitive the last 3 quarters. That's 7 of the last 8 quarters they've played, in my opinion, haven't been competitive.
Yeah.
And everybody, well, it's Houston. Houston's good. And I agree. I was able to. The other team had 1 win that you played. And you weren't really competitive the last 3 quarters of a game against a fellow 1-win team. So I think the Jets are broken. And there's a chance that if you get off to a good start, you keep them broken, and then you have that's, to me, the path.
Paul, I love the intangibles. Here's another nonsense silver lining thought. Could the Jets be, gulp, looking ahead to next Thursday night and planning, on another short week and a Houston team that's,
They can't. But they could be looking ahead to golf season.
Could the
Jets, I
Jets,
think, is highly in play.
Could the Jets be looking ahead? Most other teams wouldn't look ahead. Could the Jets?
They're not going to lose because they're looking ahead, but they could lose because they think the season's over.
Okay.
That's absolutely in play.
All right.
You can't be 2-5 and looking ahead to a team.
I wouldn't think so.
But you can be 2-5 and saying, we can't make the playoffs, so what's the difference?
Grasping at straws.
I can look ahead, though, and I think
I think there's a chance that they don't play, that they look
right.
just because
it's a worse indictment.
Yeah, they're completely disinterested. They're 2-5. Not a lot of 2-5 teams make the playoffs.
Yeah. No, that's what I think. If they were to lose today, and then they got to turn it around and go against Houston on a short week, that's
evisceration.
That's a tough one.
Look out below.
Where is that game?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
If that game is on the road, I'd have the Texans by 2 scores.
Yeah.
If they lost to the Patriots and then they had to go on the road in a short week to play Houston, I would take Houston big.
Deshaun from Virginia, you're next on the Patriots pregame social, fueled by Duncan. Good morning, Deshaun.
Hello, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
How you guys doing?
Great. How are you?
Good. I hear all the talk or whatever, but the delusion and optimism has got me going crazy because what you understand is that, yes, the Jets are going through all these problems, but they're facing a team that's totally inept on both sides of the ball. They don't have no threats on either side of the ball. I mean, when I looked at the game, the first meeting that we had against them, whatever, I can understand how they got right because we don't have anybody that can really pressure Aaron Rodgers or get to him or corral him or whatever. He doesn't have to worry about a T.J. Watt. He doesn't have to worry about a Highsmith. He doesn't have to worry about a Kane Hayward. People talk about, they still are not as talented as the Jets, but at least they do have some cornerstones they can build from. The Patriots don't really have any like talking about it. That's the reason why that's the reason why teams that have done bad are able to get right against this team because the Patriots are totally inept to talent. Even that 1-5 Jackson Jaguars team is pretty good talent-wise. They probably have faced teams previous, prior to facing the Patriots that were pretty good and talent-wise too. And that way they would have played the Jacksonville Jaguars pretty well. But the Patriots, no. So that's pretty much my take on it.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with
Thanks
anything
for the call,
Deshaun just said.
Deshaun.
I mean, it's not necessarily Patty and Agawam. It's kind of the other the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's not wrong.
No. And he seemed a little bit more angry about it than I think more realistic Patriot fans are, who look at the rosters of virtually every other team, and you're on the short stick.
Yeah, I'm
against. First of all,
I don't think we should be in this position. I don't. We talked about it. We don't have to rehash it, but I understand the anger. It's a lot of money that wasn't spent, and there's a lot of holes in their roster, none of which were filled or addressed. I mean, they drafted a quarterback with the 3rd overall pick, which every GM in the league likely would have done, and that's it. And I don't think it has to be this bad, is I guess my point. I wasn't expecting them to be a playoff team, Mike, but I wasn't expecting them to have all this off-field stuff going on. I wasn't expecting there to be bickering with young players. And, I wasn't expecting this, 165 yards a game over a 5-week span on the ground. There's a lot of things that have happened that even though I didn't think that they would win a lot of games, that I wasn't expecting.
Well,
Does that make any like that?
No,
just
no.
Makes a lot of sense.
I mean, look, you're talking snapshots. Like, you don't want to say that this draft class was, a failure, but right now, the only player you're getting a return on immediately is Drake May.
Now, if it ends up that he hits big, that's all anybody will care about, but you would have liked to have thought you could have gotten more.
And we've talked about it since, really, 2020. I mean, that's every one of these drafts when you're trying to rebuild is absolutely critical. And look, we're halfway through this season as I look at it. You got 3 preseason games, 7 down, 10 games total down. You got 10 more to go. You need to see more than Drake. I said it this week. You need more than just Drake May coming out of the season feeling like, we got something. Like, they need to feel pretty good about at least a couple of these rookies. And, Paul's general point is right. If Drake May is a superstar, that's all you're really going to care about from this draft class. But until I know he's a superstar, I need more, or else I'm looking at, year 5 is when we're really going to be realistically be competing.
I feel like they've turned us into Drake May haters, Mike, because we're not like
we need more than just him.
We haven't already put him in superstar status. But I will say, in this draft class's defense, I think the
voice of reason was going to come into play here. But now maybe you're going to.
The 2 offensive linemen are hurt.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
They haven't played well when they were in there. So I'm not telling you they have 2 budding Anthony Munozes that when they were in there they got kind of overpowered.
They look like rookies.
They looked like overmatched rookies at times.
I thought Robinson showed you a little something.
The wide receivers have been
a
close
disappointment
to a disaster. One of them can't get on the field for a variety of reasons, and the other one has been very inconsistent in Polk. But it's 7 games.
Thank you.
I'm just going to let it. I despise when the check mark is put in the positive when a guy has 4 good games. What a great draft pick.
Yeah.
So you can't have it both ways.
No one has a problem with that. No one has a problem with doing that. But if you say that a guy hasn't done anything in 7 games, you got to give him 3 years. You got to give a draft class 3 years. No, I agree. You got to give it 3 years, but you don't when they hit right away.
Yeah.
So I like to be pretty consistent. I don't immediately declare them home runs just because they have a modicum of success in the first month of their career. But I also don't say that, Layden Robinson and Caden Wallace won't ever be able to play because they got hurt in the first month and a half of their career, and
Yeah.
They haven't gotten much out of them.
That's why I said it's just a snapshot, and that's, I think, the way to look at it. But, like, at a certain point, the snapshot has to change and has to start getting a little bit better. You know, regardless, we're not going to declare anything for a couple of years. That's when you really know. I continue to really believe in Jalen Polk. I mean, I know he is up against it right now. You know, he said he needed a mental reset. I don't think the concussion was what anyone meant by that. But, you know, being able to get back in there, have a little bit of time to step away, I continue to believe in that player, and I think he has what they need, but I'm hoping he can break through this wall that he's kind of hit right here.
I choose to place a lot of stock, and it might be wrong, in wide receiver coach Tyler Hughes, okay? They had to have first-class intel on the player for them to make the pick. You want to talk to me about should they have traded up to try to get a flashier guy? Different story. But where they were, they had good intel on this guy. I'm not going to throw this guy out after 7 games and say he can't play. It has not been good to start. There's no question about it. But I believe they've got good intel on this player and that he will be, I think there's a chance for him to be a productive player. Now, maybe the mental things that you're talking about, maybe he's got the yips. You know, maybe he's struggling to find a footing, solid footing, in the National Football League as a young player. Those are all things that you might have the best intel in the world, and when they get out there and the guy's battling against himself, who could have foreseen that?
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's snowballed a little bit on him. I think the mental stuff. It's just, it all goes, you talk about drops, what was a drop, wasn't a drop. I mean, the fact is he just hasn't really caught the ball when they've been throwing it to him, regardless if he dropped it or they haven't connected. And that's a change from what we saw in the summer a little bit. But, yeah, I think this hopefully this week, and, you know, you never want anyone to have a concussion, of course, but maybe this week allows him just to take a little bit of a step back.
It's a good point.
Different perspective on the game and reset a little bit, because he's one piece I'll really look at these last 9 games now for him, hopefully.
I would agree with you guys. I think the drops are the least of the issue. Yeah. I don't – you guys know, Mike, you definitely know. I'm not as much of a believer in the talent as others are. But, I mean, guys drop passes once in a while. And, by the way, they weren't drops last week. Like, drops, plural. Like, maybe there was one that he had a chance to catch. The one that like, hung up and was behind him and he came back for it, the safety, your boy broke up.
Cisco,
that's not a drop. Like, the guy got there when the ball got there and knocked the ball away. Like, that's
a PD.
But I think it was because it was intended for Polk, and Polk is in a bad way right now. It becomes a drop.
Yeah. Because
he was involved in a play that, had a chance to be completed. I don't like if he had no drops, I would be underwhelmed with his production. Let's put it that way. Now, I'm not telling you if he had every ball that was thrown his way was a completion. That's different. I'm talking about drops. If he caught every pass he had a chance to catch, I don't think his production would be all that great.
Joe from New Hampshire, next on the Patriots Pregame Social, fueled by Duncan. Good morning, Joe.
Morning, guys. When it was announced that Uche was inactive, you kind of speculated there is a chance of a trade being in place. I'm just curious, what do you guys think is a reasonable expectation of a return? I find it hard to believe they'd be getting anything more than a 6th-round pick for him.
Yeah.
I'll take your thoughts off the air. Thanks, guys.
Couldn't agree with you more. And Joe, I was the one doing the speculating. Paul, you were doing your show earlier when Uche showed up on the... I
was doing my show, Mike.
On the inactive list, healthy scratch. It's the only... I mean, look, he's not going to really benefit you in trying to stop the run. But on a defense that's devoid of playmakers, he can get to the quarterback a little bit.
Don't you need him for Aaron Rodgers?
I mean, it's a surprise, isn't it?
Yeah. My guess is I think it sounds like you guys were on the same plane that we were talking on my show. Mike Reese wrote his, extensive open to his Sunday notes today about Uche perhaps being on the trading block. And I wonder if maybe they even have something in place and they want to make sure he comes out of the week healthy.
Right.
Yeah.
But...
Because, this to me would be a Josh Uche game.
Yeah,
sure.
We got to keep Aaron Rodgers in the pocket. We got to have someone that is going to chase him down. They don't have a lot of those guys.
Right.
No.
Right. And, I'm with Joe in that I don't know what the return. I don't think the return's going to be. I would caution Patriot fans not to get too excited about that.
I saw Karen Gregian speculating they would like a 5th, which means
I'd like a first
for like.
Yeah.
But just a strange player. Overall, the way that his career's gone,
Good kid.
They started him in 2020, had him inside a little bit, and it seemed like they were trying to figure out if he could be more than what he was in college.
Do you see second-round talent there?
No.
Yes, that's what I
He kind of came in.
That's one that I think you can be critical of Bill Belichick.
He came in as what he was, and he's just kind of stayed what he was the whole time.
You've never talking to Don Brown about him.
Yeah. He can bend the edge.
More
That's
intel.
what Don Brown told me.
They had really good intel on him, too. They were confident of that intel, Paul.
But even when they've been so devoid.
I assume that they're confident of intel when they draft these guys, but I just don't think that I don't think he fits that profile.
No, and just when you look at the depth chart of not really having stand-up edge players anymore, and he still remains a 20-snap guy, maybe 20, like 15.
Yeah, I do think he could be valuable. In the Patriots, this is why it was weird to me that Belichick got him. The Patriots have not traditionally used guys that way.
Correct.
We have Matt Smith can really get after the passer. He can't really do anything else.
Right.
Can't host a show, but he can get after the passer.
That's a really good point.
Right? So we're going to, some teams will say, we're going to have Matt Smith rush the passer. We're going to put him on the field 20, 25, 30 snaps a game, and we're going to say, Matt, don't worry about setting the edge. Don't worry about, your run fits. Just get after the passer. Get in the backfield. The Patriots have traditionally not done that. I think if Uche was on a team that asked him to do that, and obviously I'm exaggerating, but if Uche was on a team that asked him to do that, I think he has the ability to do that.
He could be more productive. Okay, is this a weird one here, Paul? I'm going to go into the Wayback Machine. Sean Crable. Sean Crable.
Crazy legs. Yeah.
Just really couldn't.
Sticks.
You didn't know what he could do, but they were enamored by the physical traits. He had the wingspan that a McGinnis would have.
Coincidentally. Where did they both go to school?
Correct.
Michigan.
Right.
They were Michigan men.
And was Crable a third-round pick, I
believe you're right.
Yeah.
I will admit that's another one. People always say, Paul only tells us after the fact when there's another one. Missed. I like Sean. I like Sean Crable.
Because you liked the measurables
until I saw him.
Yeah.
Right.
And I said,
too skinny.
Those legs are too skinny.
Right. You liked the measurables, right? I get it.
Yeah. I liked. Back in those days, Matt. Belichick used to talk about
bigger guy,
4'6", 6'4", 6'4", 4'6".
Yeah.
6'4", Willie McGinnis height, run a 4'6", 40.
About 250.
And that's those guys were rare.
Right.
Especially that time. I don't remember exactly what year he came in. Maybe 09 or 10, but. That's when they really needed to replace those guys. So you were just hoping that they could find that.
Yeah.
And let's face it, it's kind of what they need now. They need that.
It's around the time they ended up falling into like Rob Ninkovich.
And then drafted Chandler Jones. And
good, Mike.
Dan from Poughkeepsie, New York. You're next in the Patriots pregame social fueled by Duncan. Good afternoon, Dan.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Hey,
yes,
Dan.
sir.
Yep.
Hey, so I'm going to the Colts game later just to see the throwback uniforms. I'm sorry this is such an underwhelming topic, but honestly, I can't think about the Jets anymore this week. So,
cool story, Hansel.
I know, like the 70s with the stripe on the side. I know that Deuce prefers the Dynasty jersey. Matt, I don't know your preferences. If they could wear any jerseys today, what would you have them dressed?
Blue with the silver pants. Blue with the silver pants. That's the look.
So that's Mike, right?
Dynasty.
Yeah.
That's the Dynasty uniform.
They looked good. They played well in doing it. If it's not broke,
they'll come back at some point. I believe they have to.
Yeah. Last week I thought was a thumbs down on last week, Joe. Dan, what did you think? I'm not a big white and silver combination guy.
You know what? I already know your preferences, so I know that Paul thought it looked dirty. I thought it looked nice. So, Deuce, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I kind of like the gray pant with the white shirt. I think they said they haven't worn them since the 90s. I don't know if that's correct, but I do like that combination.
All right, some good uniform talk, Dan. Thanks for the phone call. Paul, what does he mean when you say they looked dirty? Which I think I might agree with you on. It didn't look like it looked like it was clean up top, dirty down below.
Yeah.
Like put them through the wash.
That's what
right?
Like I used to say that about the old silver jerseys that they wore once a blue moon.
Dirty.
They look dirty.
Clean them up.
They look dirty.
You look fantastic. I have to ask, who are you wearing?
So, I am a broken record, and Dan knows because Dan listens all the time. Like, I just used to like the look of those old late 70s uniforms. The red with the white pants at home. They went to the white shirts with the red pants there, like maybe 79-ish. I thought those were really sharp. I love the, Matt and I are of an age where, the explosion of color in sports uniforms was at its height. Now, a lot of people look at that as like a garish age of like just ugliness. I love it. I'm here. Like Matt and I Matt and I will send each other tweets when these random, like 1977 American League Baseball All-Star team will be there, and all the uniforms are there, and you can't even see. You can't even see the. You can't even see the faces.
Right.
You have no idea, but you know by the uniform.
J.R. Richard.
Who was the All-Star? And Matt and I will say, how many could you get? And we do it separately, and we just love those uniform combinations. And I get it. Like traditionalists are probably like, you liked the 1975 Boston Red Sox uniforms better than the 1980s. Yeah,
You're damn right.
Yeah, every day and twice on Sunday.
Best uniform ever. Contrast that with the monochromatic. And I think it was LSU Texas A&M last night that was a primetime college football game. And I said something to my son. I said, who is in the all black? And he looked at me incredulously and goes, Dad, that's Texas A&M. I said, geez, that's terrible. And to take it a step further, LSU had white helmets. Like, what are we doing? And LSU's got a great
I love when Matt says, what are we doing?
They've got a great uniform.
LSU might have the best uniforms in college football.
Absolutely, and
I agree with you. They had the white helmets last night with the all.
Threw it off.
Yeah,
they're family.
Then they lost.
Yeah, we lost.
And they lost. I don't like the teams that wear black that don't wear black.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Like Texas A&M's colors, they have that dark, like crimson color on it. Like why are they wearing black?
Because it's cool.
I feel that way about my my Holy Cross Crusaders. It's purple and white. They've been working black in for years, but I like the purple and the white is a little more crisp. The purple gets lost with the black. I don't know. It offsets it too much.
Black and purple. Yeah, it's like the Ravens. That's not sexy.
No, and the Ravens wear
the
Ravens wear the all black sometimes, right?
Yeah, and I don't like it.
I
like the purple.
Yeah, I don't like it at all.
I don't like their number.
Well, you don't like the Ravens at all.
No, but
you respect
I think the Ravens, if you don't want to see the Chiefs win a third straight, I think the Ravens might be your only chance out there, folks.
Good point. Yep.
They might be the only ones that are going to slow them down.
Them or Aaron
so
Rodgers.
I'm curious. I mean, this is probably more of a late season topic, but I'm curious. Would little Matt Smith sitting there watching the AFC Championship game? I know what you think about the Ravens. So do you root for the Ravens to prevent Kansas City's three-peat, or do you really?
Yeah.
I can't. Just so you know, I know Matt's inner workings here a little bit.
It's hard.
That comment spoke volumes.
Hurts.
I know what he thinks of the Ravens.
Right, but I respect the Ravens organization and I respect their program.
Yeah.
No, I mean I don't know how you couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, because they've done it a bunch of different ways. Now, I mean,
see, I would root. I'll be if that happens.
You're rooting for the three-peat.
I'd be rooting for the Chiefs. I'd probably root for the Bills because of the Josh Allen
Bills
thing.
have a puncher's chance.
I always think that he's so unfairly ripped.
But that's it, right? There's 3 teams in the AFC that have a sniff.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. Maybe Houston if they got healthy.
Nope.
But I don't think that I don't think they're at that level. They played Kansas City. No, Baltimore pretty tough in the first half of that game. Last year, the divisional round.
Yeah.
Now, let me know if
I think that was a touchdown game at halftime.
Let me know if Derrick Henry's healthy the rest of the year.
If Derrick Henry, that might be the X factor. And, I'll tell you, there are a lot of things that I say are wrong. That might be the wrongest. Derrick Henry will not be a good fit with the Ravens. Man.
Yeah.
Man, has he transformed that offense.
All right, so we're talking about things like predictions and wants and things like that. Matt, let's go to the over-unders, please.
It's time for this week's edition of Over-Unders.
All right, you're Johnny standings, right?
Yeah, last week Mike and Paul went 4-2. No Sox went 2-4.
That's because I was in London, where I caught the bubonic plague, by the way. But that's another story.
Just a touch of the bubonic.
Wow. Tell you, we might be soft, but we have plenty of excuses, don't we?
Plague.
Bubonic.
Right.
Questionable.
But showed up. Showed up.
Right. No, I'm just talking about. I'm just saying you're criticizing your performance.
Yeah. Well, that's because I was.
I mean, you're trying to mitigating circumstances here.
Injury report. Played hurt.
Mike will tell you about the time that I showed up for a pregame show. I didn't think I was going to live to see the postgame show.
Wait a minute. And speaking of which, isn't Mike coming off of a high school reunion last night?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my voice a little.
You look good, kid.
No, I didn't. Yeah, it was fun. It's kind of like a wedding. A lot of like 30-second conversations with random people from your past.
But you didn't get after it.
No. It was fun.
Did you see anything?
Professionalism.
No,
You can tell us.
No,
Lane's not listening.
No,
Did
but
you see
everybody
anyone?
looked really good.
Really?
Everybody looked really good.
Not as wicked handsome.
There was
as you,
only a
though.
couple people I didn't recognize, just guys that had facial hair now, or had lost some hair in wrong spots. But no, it was fun. It's fun. Hadn't seen a lot of those people in 30
Deuce
years.
on the loose last night.
Deuce was out.
Deuce on the loose.
I was not on the loose.
Lock up the women and children. Deuce
I
is
had
in
a couple
town.
Bud Lights because they're easy to drink. They're easy to enjoy, especially at your 30th reunion.
There you
Nice.
go.
So
Sponsors love that kind of content, Mike.
the
Flag
standings
it.
are as follows. Paul leads the way. No surprise there. 26-16. No Sox 23-19, followed by Mike.
Coming to get
22-20.
Hearing those footsteps, patter patter.
Okay, so without any further ado, here are the categories today. We'll lead it off with Drake May passing yards at 210.5. 210.5, Michael.
Give me the over. I got to throw the ball. I like it.
I mean, I just think you got to play the trends. I've been a big fan of the trends, and Drake May's been putting up some production, so I will continue that. Over.
3, 4, 3. Aaron Rodgers passing touchdowns 1.5 is the number provided to us by DraftKings.
I'm going to take the over on that as well.
Me too.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, over.
Okay, so we're in agreement on all of them. Drake May pass attempts at 31.5. Paul.
I'm going to take the under on that. I think they're going to try to run the ball early in this game, and that might keep the attempts down slightly.
Ditto.
You guys, I'm going to go under 2. I was trying to think about be different, but
Boy, we're all the
forget
same
it.
on 3 for 3. Hunter Henry receiving yards with the Jets not starting their 2 starting safeties. Injury concerns up the middle. Hunter Henry receiving yards at 34.5.
Yeah,
Mike.
I think it's a good bet. I'm going to take the over on that one. He's the safety valve. I think he'll have more than that.
Yeah, I'm going to take the over, too. Looks like that's the one guy that Drake May has shown a
very
comfort
comfortable
level
with.
with.
Yes, yes. 3 for 3 in 1, 2, 3, 4 categories. The longest field goal made. We had the greatest field goal kicker of all time on the show earlier at 48.5. I'm going to lead that off and go under.
I'm going to take the under as well. I think it's a little cooler here
Yeah.
than it has been, so that might prevent the longer field goals today. I don't know.
Who's that? Greg the Leg for the Jets?
And he's been struggling all year.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it interesting. I'm going to go over. Joey Sly hits a 50-yarder.
Okay.
Pretty sly for a
Like
sly
that?
guy.
That's a sly,
Make it
sly
interesting.
maneuver. Last but not least, the total score is 41. 41. I'm going to go under on that. I don't see a lot of offense today. And maybe this is heart instead of head, but I think for the game to be close to the Patriots' favor, they've got to play down. The score's got to be down. I'm going to go under on that.
Yeah, I'm under 2, and it's even going to match my score prediction, so you're welcome. I did the math.
I will take the over. I think that the Jets' offense will be better today than it has been in recent weeks.
Okay. Devontae Adams. They listen to the man. The Patriots Pregame Show is brought to you by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Where do you see that coming, Paul? Do you see that coming from a balanced Jets attack? Do you think they can run it and throw it today?
Well, I think they're going to just do what they did the last time. And they marched it up and down the field against a Patriots defense that was playing better at the time than it is now. So, I think Adams is better than Lazard. I know Lazard's out altogether. So I think that's another guy to worry about in the secondary. I think they'll be able to throw it early and run it late, kind of like Jacksonville started last week.
Yeah. I don't have a lot of confidence in stopping the run. That's the piece to me that Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, those are 2 really good backs that can also catch it a little bit. And I just think that versatility, it gives a lot for the Patriots defense to deal with in some of their weakest spots. And I think it's a place the Jets can exploit them.
Here's one, and I'm going to have to cough here for a second.
Hold, please.
Excuse me.
Cough button down there.
Is there? You have to tell me about that. Sorry about that.
It says
Cough.
Does it? Oh, sorry.
It's like every time I want to cough, I just there you go.
On the Adams and now Garrett Wilson duo that the Jets have, it does put a little bit more of a spotlight on Christian Gonzalez and the Patriots cornerbacks. And I think Gonzalez struggled last week overseas. Mike, this is not a great spot for him, is it?
No, I mean, I think he's been good. I connected to the front. I connected to the pass rush. I connected to a lot of that stuff. I mean, look, he's got to be better, especially I think off the line, being a little bit more physical with guys, disrupting some of the timing. But you know, I don't put it all on the secondary. I think it's, to me, that's where I look first, is up front, and it's just a defense that is one of the worst pressure rate teams in the league. So they've got to find a way to get pressure. But you know, it's a fine line of keeping Aaron Rodgers in the pocket and then getting to him and finishing him off. There's going to be opportunities, I think, for him to squirt out and make plays, and that's when it gets rough with the coverage.
Yeah, I agree with Mike on the secondary in general. I don't think it's been great, but I also don't put the burden on them. I think Gonzalez has been okay. It's funny because the first 3 or 4 games, people were really, heaping praise on Gonzalez, and I was like, he's been okay. And the last couple of games, people have been really critical of Gonzalez, and I've been like, no, he's okay. And I know people are like, well, he learned that from Felger, on his show. Like, you just have to be a contrarian. No, I think that his performance has been pretty similar in most of these games, but somehow we're interpreting it differently based on a play or two here or there. I don't necessarily look at just the results. I look at the coverage. Like that Jets game on that Thursday night when Garrett Wilson runs right by him and Aaron Rodgers underthrows him and it's not complete, it just falls out of bounds. Like, that to me is that was the play to Brian Thomas last week that everybody saw gets completed. Yeah. I treat those two plays the same, not the result. Much like going for 2-point conversions, Matt.
Oh, God.
Well, hold on for a second.
I'm just joking.
I'm just open up that can of worms.
I'm just joking.
As pregame warm-ups are being ready to commence.
Evidently, the three of us are the only 3 that are not on the field at the time.
Right.
There's a lot of people out there.
Paul, I don't think
Drake May
in his second year, and now we're talking about he's played 10 games in his NFL career. I don't think Christian Gonzalez's play has risen to a point where, you can't throw at him, you can't challenge him.
To the contrary, I think people are throwing at him every game.
Correct. And it's been bumpy.
And he's been I think he's been okay. I don't think he's been terrible. I just don't think he was as great as he was being made out to be
slowed down.
Early in the year.
The hype train has slowed down.
And I continue to get back to, I don't know the answer to it. Sometimes it's dangerous to ask questions you don't know the answers to, but if he was the next, right now people are talking about Patrick Surtain, Sauce Gardner, a little bit of Derek Stingley, these young corners that are really up and coming. If he's one of them, then I would think that you're asking him to take the other team's best receiver man-to-man the vast majority, if not the entire game. And the Patriots are not asking him to do that.
Correct.
So I don't know the reason for that. Maybe it's bad coaching. I think
they
don't think that that's the best thing for the team.
I would agree with that. Joe from Poughkeepsie, if you're looking at the pregame social, you can see they're going with the, dreaded all blues today for the Patriots in uniform match today.
The Blueberries.
All right, the electronic mail address is podcast@patriots.com, and who is this person? No name on it, but what's going to be the narrative or the takeaway if this game turns into a shootout? Boy, from your lips to God's ears. If both teams end up in the 30s, are we feeling better about the direction of the, quote, program, end quote, as Paul calls it? Paul, they called you out. Your thoughts, sir?
I would feel better about the offense and Drake May, but overall, not necessarily. I would say, you know what? I would say yes. In general terms, I would say yes. I would rather lose a shootout, and I'd feel better about losing a shootout. Because now I feel like, okay, I have a quarterback that can get in a shootout and put points on the board, whereas the last 3 years, that was game, set, match. If the other team was going to threaten 30 points, you might as well not even bother playing the rest of the game because you could be alone on the field and not score 30 points.
Michael?
Yeah, it's hard to see how they get there. I need to see something new from the Patriots defense to be able to like do they show anything in a shootout, or is it just like right down the field, right down the field, right down the field? Those things won't make you feel great. But I agree with the general point of what Paul said. If they continue to stack points, because that's always been kind of the caveat of these games. It's like, yeah, Drake May looks a little better, the production, the output was still kind of the same. So until the output starts to improve, I think that's something that could
like because
move
that's
the needle a little
like
bit.
everybody's talking about May, and I told you that I would have taken May over Jaden Daniels. I told you that I would have started May in week 1. I'm happy with Drake May. But the bottom line is what Mike just said is 100% true. It's looked different because they've been able to throw the ball and make some plays in the passing game, but the production has been virtually the same.
Right.
The production in the passing game is greater, but in the running game it's less, and the total yardage is roughly the same, and the points have been roughly the same. So, like, if they can all of a sudden go from 16, 18, I think they're averaging 18 points in these 2 games or something like that. You know, if they could go from what they've done in the last 2 games to suddenly score, 31 points and lose, I think that is a cause to answer the emailer's question, to be excited.
Dave in Maine emails, and his subject line is F them picks.
Whoa.
It looks like we're going to be trading Uche. That's unfortunate because we'll probably get a 5th at best that will be wasted anyway. I don't know if I agree with that. Until we prove that we can actually draft them, I say F them picks. I have a feeling this is going to be a rough watch. What do you guys think?
Today's game, I hope not. I hope not. I hope they're competitive. I mean, I've said it many times, even when the Patriots were at the height of their powers and the Jets were a crappy team, there were some games where they surprised you and they hung in there and they were, fought tight even when they were, as overwhelmed by the talent deficit as some might say the Patriots are today. So I'd love, it's your thing, Matt. I'd love to see them compete today. I'd love to see them be competitive. I'd love to see them force some punts, sustain some drives, not have it be so, it's great, it's terrible. It's such a wave of emotion with this team sometimes. And, last week it was just kind of the start was the great and then terrible. I just find a steady spot for this team. Be consistent. Try to find a way to compete and stick in this game and have it come down to the end. I think if they do that, we'll see what the final result is, but I'll give them some credit for that for sure.
Is this a little too soft of a comment that I'm going to be make here? But is it time after a 1-6 start to reset? Do you have to do that? And the bar that I'm giving them, Mike, as you know, is quite low. I want to look at a competitive team today. I want to see a team that gives its all, that balls out, and then let's see what happens as far as the result is concerned. That, after last week, I kind of feel like a reset might be needed.
I've seen this the last couple of years. We've seen, some bad football teams that have lost a lot of games, and you see each week they push new buttons, but you run out of those buttons to push. You can only have so many come to Jesus meetings and so many players only, we got to be better. That stuff only works a certain amount of time, and they're at that inflection point right now where it's either guys are going to buy in and they're going to be a scrappy team down these last 10 games and show something and show some progress, or it's going to go the other way and it's going to be each week we're kind of falling apart and stuff that we've been seeing, guys yelling at each other, all that stuff. It's going to continue to happen.
Paul, you talk about the Jets and the possibility with the Jets with their season really being on the line. They had high hopes as far as it's concerned, and sure, they could turn it around. Maybe it's unlikely because of the spot that they put them in, but you're saying to yourself, if things don't go well, that they implode and there goes the whole season. Do you have any fear of that the Patriots are at this inflection point and something similar could happen, that they just, that they go the other way rather than compete?
I mean, not really, in terms of compete, because I don't think it's necessarily been entirely about a lack of effort, and I think that there has been periods where the Jets could wonder about that. Now, it's hard to say. I think if the record is what we think it's going to be for the Patriots, you could say, well, they did. They just went in the tank. I don't think they're 1-6 because they went in the tank.
No.
And they could go 1-6 the next 7 games, and I'm not going to say, well, that's because they went in the tank. I think they're most of these weeks they're going to have a hard time, and they're going to need some help from the other team to win.
Yep.
Now, they don't need help from the other team to compete. There's not that big of a difference between the best and the worst in the NFL. You should be able to compete every week. And, to your point, Matt, the last 3 quarters last week, the competition level was suspect. I think that's why Gerard said what he said.
Chris writes in, was Malcolm Mitchell a success? Based on that particular team, I think so. Curious how you all feel. I'm still hopeful to get something out of the rest of this draft class, which is why he's bringing up Malcolm Mitchell,
Holy
I suppose.
randomness.
I'm disappointed so far. I haven't seen much signs of hope. So if he's disappointed in the draft class, I think he's looking at a guy like Mitchell, who's a 4th-round pick, if my memory serves correct. And Mitchell ran into injury problems that, you know.
I mean, I think
he was a contributor on a good team.
But guys that get hurt, that's a different thing. Like, I would argue that was a bad pick because the reason he was available was the injury. And then that injury ended his career prematurely. Everybody thought he could play, you know, and some of those worked out. It was kind of like in that era where
where's a stiff from Florida that they drafted in the first
Dominique
round?
Easley.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody had, like, Bill was remarkably fortunate every time he did that for a long time. You know, Gronkowski being the poster child, right? And then all of a sudden,
Jordan Richards.
Some of those guys. Well, Jordan Richards wasn't hurt. Like I'm talking about taking damaged goods.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
That were only
I
like
thought you were
Malcolm
talking
Mitchell was
reaches.
only available when he
Yes.
took him because of his injury. Like Sony Michel was only available when he took him because of his injury. Like, you know, Sony Michel's probably he wasn't going much higher than that. That's probably
Easley,
not a
though,
great example. Dominique Easley, you know, people liked Dominique Easley, but he had torn both ACLs, and you know, people were worried about him. Gronk is the poster child.
Yes.
Like, aside from Greg Bedard, who I love to take shots, like I love to
He's
tease
never
Greg
gonna live
about
that
this.
one down.
I love to tease Greg about it because I know it bothers Greg. Like he just did not he
at all.
I don't see it at all. Just kidding, Greg. Greg knows I love him.
Oh, it's good.
But everybody saw the talent that Gronk had. But not everybody is in a position like Bill Belichick where you have 3 titles and basically carte blanche.
Yeah.
You know, if that second-round pick doesn't work out, Bill Belichick's still going to coach the team for the next 15 years or whatever it was. 13 years, I guess, in that case. You know, if Raheem Morris is coaching somewhere and he takes Rob Gronkowski in the second round and he never plays because of his back injury, he's out of a job.
Right.
That GM or whoever takes him is done. So I think some of those things, Easley being one that Matt brought up, Malcolm Mitchell being another. Malcolm Mitchell could play.
He was a contributor
Malcolm
on
Mitchell
that Super Bowl team.
he was a good complementary
Yes.
receiver. He
Yep.
could play.
Yep.
But his career lasted like what, a year and a half?
As you're watching the Patriots pregame social fueled by Duncan, you see the all-blue uniforms, and Johnny in Madtown writes in, "Listen, I'm here for the red Patriots uniforms with the white pants. I think it looks great, but there is no replacing the Dynasty unis. Bring them back. I like a blackout uniform as long as there's some color mixed in." Well, how does that happen? I'm no fashionista, obviously, but how does that happen? The Cincinnati Reds have a cool black alternate uniform. Football is different, though. Red Sox red jerseys are my favorite. They have currently not a huge fan of the marathon colors, probably since they have overused them. I'd like the Sox to break out the green St. Patty's Day unis, and I'd like them to have a Bruins-inspired black and gold alternate jersey. Oh, yeah, Pats lose, but May looks good today. That's from Johnny in Madtown. Spent a lot of time on the uniforms there. That's way over my a lot of that uniform talk.
You can, you blame me for a lot of stuff, which is accurate. You can blame Mike.
That's me.
You can
That's
blame
my
Mike
fault.
for the uniform stuff and the
I'm the
random nonsense.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, in general, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I don't mind talking
You
about
liked
it.
it in high school. I mean, you liked uniform talk in high school. You seem like you were interested in it.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't lose sleep over it like so many people do. Like it's just.
What are they going to wear tomorrow?
Like
right.
People are really, really interested
Let's
in that
tease it
stuff.
on social media so people will leave it.
Now you took it to a different
come
place.
on.
Like, see.
As we watch Drake May warm up, let's go to
On social
Eldred
media.
in North Carolina. Eldred, you're next on the Patriots pregame social fueled by Duncan. Good afternoon, Eldred.
Whoa, look
Whoa,
out.
Hey, man.
whoa,
Hey,
whoa.
hey.
That's aggressive on a Sunday.
10-4. 10-4.
Yeah, I'm working.
Good buddy.
Yeah, I'm working. But I was hearing some of y'all comment. This goes back to, like I said before, the draft with Bill, and that's why where we are now.
Yep.
It's his fault. And for him to talk so much noise about the Patriots and Mayo, it's his fault that it's like this. And he should shut the you-know-what up because he put us here. But the receiver, I hope they don't trade Oche unless they're going to try to get a tackle for him. But if they get a 4th or a 5th round draft pick, I'm going to be like everybody else. I'm going to be mad because that's ridiculous.
Okay. I'm just going to let you know you're going to be mad.
Yeah, Eldred, thanks for the thanks for the phone call. If they get a 4th for him, they're going to stop the game in the middle of it and have a ceremony for crying out loud.
That'd be good. They do have 10 picks right now, so.
Do they have 10?
Yeah.
So that's what
How
this
do they
is.
have 10?
have to look.
Well, they got something,
Please.
they got something for Judon.
Yeah, they got a third. They got a third for.
So
for
we got a
Judon.
third for Judon. We got a 7th via Tennessee for Folk and a 7th via the LAC. Not sure who the LAC one was from. Might have been a draft trade, but yeah.
So 2 extra 7ths.
Yep.
Oh boy.
And 2/3.
Yeah, the third round pick for Judon was a good trade.
Yep.
I insist that's the best thing. I think that's the best single move that Elliott Wolf has made so far.
So they're going into April right now with 10, and they want more. No question about that. Matt, let's hit the Sunday six-pack, please.
This is the Sunday six-pack, so kick back and listen to my position. I'm itching to get the picks back. You better bring a big stack. Get it mixed, Jack. I came to win it, yeah, this is the Sunday six-pack.
All right, question for Mr. Morrell. The rationale why we're only doing 1 o'clock games today, is that just what you felt? Okay, I'm just curious. You know, in the maybe in the 12:30 hour, people have kind of an eye on the
like to get the
game of the day later. That's fine. I just was wondering what the rationale is.
see.
You
He
verbalized it.
He wants
I
to
like
do
that.
the stuff today.
Yeah. That way Paul can check it in the
Paul
post-game
can check
show.
my math today.
Right.
Oh, okay. That's a good answer. That's a good answer. All right.
So there's some scratch outs here on my sheet, so I'm just gonna try to wing this a little bit. Looks like
a lot of mediocrity.
Well, it looks like Mike went 4-2, and
yeah.
Paul and No Socks went 3-3.
Matt,
So,
buddy, thought we were friends. Killing me.
yeah, the overall standings are
pathetic.
Very adequate in their adequacy.
Is it though?
Mike and No Socks at 20-20-2. Paul a game behind at 19-21-2.
Yeah. That's barely mediocre.
Eek.
All right, so let's kick things off. Mr. Morrell has given us all 1 o'clock games.
We're
We
all
start
losing money.
at Houston, where the Texans are giving 5 to the Indianapolis Colts. Deuce, kick us off, please.
Yeah, I probably recency bias, but anytime I see a team come in here and look really good like the Texans did, I'm a little high on them. So I'm going to take the Texans. I will lay those points, even though division game a little bit high with the 5, but I'll lay them.
Yeah, I echo everything Mike just said. I'm tempted to take the points division game, but I'm not going to. That Anthony Richardson erratic accuracy to me is hard to imagine him putting enough points. He did it in week 1. I think they lost like 29-27 or something like
all
that.
Deep balls, right?
But I think Houston will cover this time.
Terrific fantasy quarterback pick is Anthony Richardson.
I'm sensing some sarcasm with that.
I'm going to lay down
Come
Sally
on, be
with
better.
the Houston Texans. All right. Next, we go to Miami, where the Dolphins are hosting the Arizona Cardinals. Dolphins are 3.5-point favorites, and it is the return of Tua.
Oh, God.
As Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are ecstatic.
Be careful, Tua. Be careful. We love you.
I mean, you can do whatever you want to do, but I don't feel comfortable watching it.
I love Team Polly up for those. Who's going? Me?
Oh,
You?
I'm going to take Miami. I'm a little worried the whole Tyreek Hill popping up on the injury report on Friday and stuff, but it sounds like he's going to play. He probably won't because he's on my fantasy team, and now that Tua's back, he'll be out. But I'm going to say that they've been waiting for this game, and it's at Miami, where they typically play well. I don't feel great about it, but I'm going to lay the 3.5. I'm not taking the hook.
Don't forget the old West Coast to East Coast, Paul, which I'm the only one who believes in it, and the stats are so overwhelmingly supporting that it's a bunch
other
of
way.
BS.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I'm going to lay with the Dolphins. I like Miami at home against Arizona, Deuce.
I'm going to get a little crazy. I'm going to take Arizona. I just don't know. It's Tua going to step right back in. It's all going to be clicking. It's such a fine-tuned offense, so reliant on pinpoint accuracy and pinpoint execution. I'm going to say they don't quite have it this week. I'm going to go with Kyler Murray and the Cardinals on the road.
In Cleveland, in the dumpster fire that are the Browns, the Baltimore Ravens on the road are 8.5-point favorites in Cleveland. Lay them down. Lay them down. I like the Ravens, Paul. That's Jameis Winston quarterbacking for the Brownies, right?
I love Jameis Winston.
But I think that I'm going to take Baltimore too, but I'm worried about that because he can actually throw the ball.
I know.
And they have had no semblance of a passing game with Watson, and that Ravens defense is broken. And they're going to be missing their best corner in Marlon Humphrey. I'm going to take Baltimore anyway because I think they're that much better than Cleveland, but that's a lot of points in a division game.
It is, and I'm going to take those points for Cleveland. I think Jameis Winston chucks the ball around a little bit.
He's a 30-30 club member, isn't he?
I believe he is.
Yeah.
He's hilarious. That guy cracks me up.
In Tampa, where the Buccaneers are hosting a division game against the Atlanta Falcons, where Atlanta is actually a favor against the Bucks. 2.5. That's a surprising line by DraftKings there, Paulie.
I believe that's probably in reference to the
wide receivers.
Yeah, the Bucks' entire roster on offense, aside of Baker baking, is banged up. So I'm going to take the Falcons because of that. I think that's tough. First week without Evans and Godwin, I think will be tough.
Yeah, I'm with Paulie. I'll take the Atlanta Falcons.
What seems so obvious, I'm going to disagree and actually go with the home team there.
Let Baker bake.
Which brings us
Talk
to
about 30-30, guys. He's got a chance.
Yep. Brings us to Cincinnati, where the 4-2 Eagles are going to the Bengals, who really need this game at 3-4. Cincinnati is a 2-point pick, Mike.
And I like it. I'm going to take the Bengals. Like you said, I think they need it. Eagles a little bit more up and down. I do love A.J. Brown, though. He's one of my favorite players in the league. Continue just to enjoy watching him play. But I'm going to take Cincinnati.
Yeah, Matt's favorite dog receiver is out again today. T. Higgins.
Future Patriot T. Higgins.
With a quad
he's only
injury.
going to be making $35 million next year.
And that's, for that reason, I am going to take the Eagles. Because I think that they're going to have a hard time. I don't think Cincinnati will stop Philadelphia. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. And I think when you take Higgins out, it makes the Bengals' chances of staying in a shootout that much more difficult.
I think the Bengals, as you know, Paul, one of my favorite franchises in all of sports. I think the game means more to them than the Eagles do. And I'm going to, for some wacky reason, go with the Bengals in that game, laying the 2.
Oh.
Which brings us to the AFC East matchup between the 2-5 New York Football Jets and the 1-6 Patriots, where the Patriots are home dogs. They're laying 7 today against the Jets. Michael.
Yeah, I can't do it. Patriots got to show me something for me to get back on the Patriots pick train. I just think the Jets need this game a little bit more. They're a little bit more talented. Patriots also have some key injuries that they're dealing with. Tough not to have Kyle Duggar out there at Quale. They continue to tap depth they don't have. So I am going to take the New York Jets by a score of 30-20.
Yeah, I'm with Mike. I need to see something change before I just assume it will change. And I'm going to take the Jets to win this game fairly comfortably. I'm going to say 27-16. I just think there's too much of a difference in talent.
I'm with both of you in that I need some evidence. However, I'm going to depart that by going with my heart instead of my head. For some reason or other, I'm going to look at what Coach Gerard Mayo said in the aftermath of the London game, whether he walked it back on Monday or not, as a challenge that I think the Patriots are going to accept. And I think they're going to muddy the game up a little bit, dirty it up a little bit, and I think they'll hang close. I like them with the points here at Gillette Stadium. Again, tough to do that when you don't have a lot to where there's not a lot of evidence or hang your hat on.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
No, that's it. And I mean, these are the games here in October. We're getting to the point, not quite Thanksgiving when everyone says the real football starts. You know, that's when we. But you are at a point
remember
now.
when we used to be able to say that?
Right. That's when we start to play our best football. Hasn't been the case here, but I would say now we're in late October. This is where I think even Bill Belichick would tell you, this is where you start to know what you really have. And even with injuries and everything that's happened in this team, like, this is who they are. This is who they've been. It's time to start putting things together, especially in some of the spots that they've been super, super weak in.
Can they get any kind of a bump or any juice from the crowd? Can they make a play here? Can the crowd get behind him a little bit and lift him just in a little bit of a way to help him out?
They better do it quick.
Paul's laughing at me. I had my back to him.
I'm laughing at you because the 2014 Patriots had a hard time getting the total juice on the crowd.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, they do need. I mean, I think that's what you need a good start for. You know, you need to keep the crowd invested. And look, everybody's on edge. We've been on edge for a while, and as soon as things start to go, you feel the murmurs, you feel the uncomfortability in the stands. But you get a good start. You make a couple big plays. Drake throws the ball down the field a little bit. I mean, I think we all know what it felt like when he threw that bomb last time we were here against Houston right before the end of the first half. It was, oh, my God, just an injection of energy everywhere. So they need those kind of plays early and often.
Yeah, and I would say, and I made the comment earlier, I don't think there's, I think the other team has more talent. But in the NFL, having the more talent isn't like it is in college, where the college team just is powerless, to make any plays. The Patriots can do what Mike said. You know, you make a couple of plays in the passing game, you run the ball better than you have the last couple of weeks, and you give the crowd something to be hopeful about and maybe get involved in the game. It's close, and obviously if it's close for a while, you have a chance to win it. You know, and there's absolutely, I would never go into an NFL game and say there is 0-0-0, chances.
Yeah.
Like,
any given Sunday, baby.
Much has been made that this is Gerard Mayo's rookie season as an NFL head coach. If you look across the sidelines, it's Jeff Urlacher. What's
Ulbrich.
Ulbrich is the name.
See, that's why they're going to lose, because you're disrespectful and they hear us talk like this.
Right.
Okay, but I mean,
you don't even know what
he's
defense
like taking
he
me
runs.
seriously.
No, I'm not. But I mean, it's not like they've got Newt Rockne over on the other side.
And
now they got more talent.
They made the coaching change, Matt. To your point, 0-2.
Right.
Like, it hasn't worked. It certainly hasn't worked in terms of results.
The Jets they've been masters of changing the narrative. It's like they lose a game, they fire their coach. They lose a game, they get Devontae Adams. They lose a game, they're like, well, we're going to be better. Like, it just keeps like they keep kicking the can down the road of facing reality, and like reality could come hit them today if they don't play well.
I couldn't agree more, and I will say, if the last of the Jets apologists, holding their hat. Okay, so they're 2-5. And these are their. Much has been made that they only beat the Titans and the Patriots. They lost to the Niners, who a lot of people feel like is a Super Bowl contender.
Before they got
the
decimated
Niners.
with injuries.
They lost to the Vikings on the road. Actually, in London. They lost to the Bills on a Monday night game, and they lost at Pittsburgh. The only quote-unquote bad loss they have is to Denver, and they have a winning record, the Broncos, right now. So you could make an argument that, they lose. The only one of those games, by the way, that they didn't have a chance to win was the first one, the Niners game. I mean, they lost 23-17 to Minnesota, 23-20 to Buffalo. They had Pittsburgh dead and buried until they self-destructed. They ended up losing going away, but they had every opportunity to win that game. They're up 15-3 with the ball driving when it all just fell apart for them. So if you're a Jets fan and you're like, well, this is one we should win, right? The Patriots, this is one we should win. We get that. We feel better about ourselves, and and maybe we can start, a streak where you can win 5 out of 7 and get yourself, right back in the race, as Danny and Quincy would say on local sports talk radio.
Well, Paul, we've used this phrase many a time. One of our earlier callers said it earlier today. He never gave us what the path was, but I'm going to ask you and put you on the spot. Give me a path to victory for the Patriots. What does it look like today for the Patriots to win the game? Not be competitive.
To win the game, I would say +2 minimum turnovers.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Maybe a missed field goal by Greg DeLake, too.
Yeah.
Do you have any success running the ball?
Sure. But you don't score that way.
Okay.
Like, you need help. You need help from the other team to score.
Okay.
I would say. Don't you think?
That's right where my head went.
I mean, they're going to be around 300 yards of offense. If we're going off of what we've seen, you're going to be around 300 yards of offense, which is pedestrian.
Yeah.
They haven't topped 300 yards yet. I don't know how you get enough points unless you get some gifted to you. Maybe a Marcus Jones punt return.
Well, I was just going to say, who's got edge special teams?
I would say the Jets, based on what the Patriots have been doing.
Right.
Now, the Jets have not been great. Zerline's missing a lot of field goals.
Yeah.
I think he's like 8 for 13 or something like that on field goals.
I'd like to just see execution in the red zone too. I mean, getting there is a problem, but
I'd like to see there.
I totally agree. I was exactly what +2 in turnovers, and I was even saying maybe +3, but +2, and finishing with touchdowns. I don't think they're going to be able to stop in the end zone, try to kick field goals. It's not going to be a formula to win.
Do you think the Jets, with Rodgers' injury situation, who missed practice time this week, right? It wasn't, he was limited, I think, on a couple days at least this week. Are they going to try and come out? Did they watch the Jacksonville tape and say, geez, maybe we should hand the ball off?
I would.
That's a path to victory for the Patriots if they do that.
No. I mean,
I think that keeps the score down and keeps you in the game.
I just don't think you get carried away with it, but why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
To me, that's the very simple recipe for success for the Jets. Turn the tape on. You have a better team than Jacksonville. They ran it down their throat. Let's see if these guys learned anything in the last week and can stop the run.
Well, it's less about, to me, to Paul's point, less about scoring and just breaking their defense and saying, you can't stop us. We're going to run on you a bunch, and now you're all softened up and you're all thinking in your own heads, and now we're just going to start throwing it.
And the Jags put 22 points on the board before they started running the ball. That's what I think the Jets need to think about.
Yeah.
Mike's old. Throw to score, run to win.
Quick start. Yeah, Devontae Adams probably will not be happy if there's a emphasis on the running game.
It's almost funny because you pick Jets. You pick. Like, what scares you? Does the pass rush scare you? Probably not.
I just feel
does the run defense intimidate you? Probably not. So do what you think.
And I'm going to be a little hypocritical. To contradict you, I'm going to contradict myself. I said I need to see something different before I'm going to believe it's something different. I'm going to assume that after being called soft, there's going to be an over-the-top emphasis of making sure they're not soft. And I think if the Jets just want to line up and try to come out on first down with 2 tight ends and run Breece Hall between the tackles on first and second down, I think it's going to be 3rd and 7.
No.
And I think that's a recipe to keep you in the game if you're the Patriots.
It's funny. One last point I've been kind of thinking about here as we wrap up, but I just remember that first preseason game, and they came out like gangbusters on defense. I remember, like, why are they being so aggressive? They're sending blitzers. Like, and granted, it was a preseason game, and we were probably reading a little bit too much in it, but, like, that was the energy they came out
Jack Plummer was under siege.
Right. But, they came out regardless of, like, the backup sort of, but, like, they're like, man, they just look like they got their hair on fire and they're here to play almost, like, too hard for a preseason game. Like, that's the kind of effort I think you're talking about a little bit, Paul, where it's like they just feel like they're going to leave it all on the field in the first quarter trying to stop the run and trying to, like, not play soft.
That's the way I would look at it. If I were Todd Downing, who took over play calling duties for the Jets, I would come out and go a nice play action pass on 1st and 10, see if you can get 7 yards. Doesn't have to be a big play, Just see if you can get in positive situations, because if you dictate the down and distance, the Patriots have had a hard time getting off the field.
I'll tell you one more thing. Get the ball to the backs in space. Don't run it, but challenge their linebackers, Patriots linebackers, to do what they haven't been able to do, which is sift through all the traffic and find the back and get to them. They got those 2 guys really good catching the back, running the ball. Make the Patriots linebackers tackle in space. That might be a great way to kind of split the difference between running into the wall.
And if Rodgers is hurt, and you don't want him moving around the pocket, get the ball out quick.
Prescription for it. Well, we'll find out in about 3 hours or so. We'll know which way it's going. That'll do it for the pregame social fueled by Duncan. The 3 of us will be back here after the game to analyze and dissect everything that's going on when the Patriots host the New York Jets. Enjoy the game, everyone.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.